Audio out. Wait, is it audio output or audio input? What does it want for this? I just want your. What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm panicking. Me. Yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry. Am I doing the Discord call as the audio?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That is the audio source.
Sorry,
yeah, so it's
audio...
desktop. Yeah. Usually it's desktop audio or whatever. That's what I do.
What I see. I think it's application audio capture beta. Is that it? Or just desktop?
It's just desktop. It should be in your audio mixer already. Oh, I think they can hear me now.
How? Okay.
I'm super
audio
loud.
Output capture. I'm sorry. Yeah, you were quite loud before. Okay, so... Fucking super loud.
Welcome to the ASMR stream.
Shut up.
Okay.
Well, your mic is actually quite loud. Okay, I think... Does that sound okay to people?
Maybe. I don't know. I can't hear it.
From the volume, it looks like you're a bit louder. People can tell us. As people tell us, I'll just explain. Nick's currently moving, so I'm doing the stream. I thought I'd got everything set up quite well, but it turns out that
it's always audio.
Didn't think about audio at all. So by the mix, it looks okay. If anyone can tell us if stuff is good or bad, please. Any input is good. Tell us. I don't want to listen to it back and then have that playing over.
Yeah, it'll be
either of you two could also just listen to it and check that it sounds okay. So
I've been listening to it. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Good. Okay. Great. Apologies for that.
Cool.
Okay, I'll do the very basic precursor then. Is that I'm the one streaming this time because Nick's in the middle of moving. We're going to be a shorter stream. We're going to do about 2 hours Q&A instead of 3 this time, so we won't do any game capture after. I've not got anything prepared for that. Yeah, his mic is shite, but that'll be fine. Literally, in a week's time, it'll be completely fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Less than a week, even. Yeah.
Yeah. But we can, I'm sure, get into that as we talk about the next couple of slides. Yeah, and let me
we'll do the...
and then Firefox. I'm in the wrong place. I'm sorry. Just spoiled all the questions. Okay. But yes. Is this all a welcome? Is that our welcome done? Or
yes, welcome's the first one. Yeah,
wonderful.
And then okay, are we still doing the welcome, or should we move on to the usual question?
Do you want to do more welcome, or what's?
Okay, yes, I'll do more introduction. Welcome everybody to the most scuffed version of the Momentum Mod Q&A. I'm Gothnek. I'm the project lead and development lead of Momentum Mod. Here in a temp apartment. I'll get more into it in a bit here, but I am in the process of moving. I'm now going to be a California boy. So excuse the poor quality microphone and reverb and shit. This is the best that I could do in my current situation, other than like going into work, which would be bad. Anyway, so yeah, this is very, very scuffed. A week delayed because I physically was not even able to attend the Q&A stream. So we bumped it back, just worked out better timing wise. So it's also going to be faster. We aren't going to do any gameplay, unfortunately, this time, mainly because this laptop probably will catch on fire if we did some gameplay. Anyway, yeah, so it's scuffed, but hey, the next Q&A stream that we do will be right back to normal, except a new background for me. That's not a temporary apartment setup. Yeah, so I guess we can go down the list. Who else is here? We got some lovely members joining me here, answering some of these questions.
It's just 2 of us.
Yeah.
You're, I guess, left or right, XB, so you go.
That's right, okay.
Why not?
I'm XB, man. I'm a mapper, and that's about it right now. Mostly focused on Surf, but I've been a member of the team for a while.
Hey, I'm Tom. I'm a programmer on the project, primarily working in web and UI. XP on audio is low. I can increase him on Discord, potentially. I feel like I have him increased already. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have Gok at 200%. I'm sorry.
As one should.
Okay,
one should.
I've lowered you a bit, and then I'm gonna keep you both. Sorry, I'm gonna one second. I'm gonna put you both back to 100, and then. But yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm Tom. I mostly do UI and web dev, but I do bits of game dev and stuff as well. All over the place. So I think voice should be pretty well normalized now. Someone say something. Let me just look at levels.
Something. Let me just
yeah,
look at
that looks pretty much right. I think.
Cool.
I apologize for that. But yeah, again, scuffed audio, standard.
Scuffed. Yeah, this time.
Yeah, just for once.
Cool. All right. I guess we'll move on to the first question, which is a traditional question now. What's everyone been up to? If that intro wasn't clear enough, I have been in the middle of moving. I'm relocating. I used to live in Michigan, and now I am out in California. It's part of the whole work relo stuff, but it's very fun. I already was operating in PST hours, so it actually wasn't really that hard to get used to. It's just warmer, which is nice. But yeah, that's been basically consuming me for the past, I want to say since December, because that's like when it's been like started getting talked about. Yeah, so the the main thing that I've been up to has been reviewing code when I could. I don't really have my full setup. As you can see, I'm on a laptop. I'm able to do some minimal work, but it's not very productive here. I need, my multiple monitors and, my hard drive with momentum code on it, stuff like that. I need that in order to do, momentum code stuff. But I've been mainly just reviewing team members' code, and there's a lot of great stuff. We're going to try to be cutting a release. Sorry again about that too, that it's been a bit since the last release. It's kind of tied up in this as well. We'll get it back on track. This has just been a giant kink in all of the the release pipeline and everything. So we'll try to get back into the swing of things when I should be getting my stuff on Thursday. So I'm hoping everything's there. I'll try to cut a release and get 097 pushed out this weekend. If I can try to just do it from this laptop, we'll see. But 097 is coming soon. A lot of great stuff in that update, including removing DX9 and other great work done by the team that will be in the changelog blog post and in our Discord as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. It's been a lot of interesting seeing all my stuff packed up into boxes and shipped, and I hope it's all good. I get the fun time of unpacking it on Thursday to see if anything broke, but we'll see. Mm-hmm. But that's been it for me. What have you guys been up to?
HP?
Well, I've been I was working full time, and it was taking up just all of my energy for quite most of a year. But I've been able to come back and start working on the surf learn section again, as well as get a few of the maps I made previously put into the map selector, which is nice. And then other than that, I've just been working on a lot of just personal surf projects.
Nice. Yeah. Just touching on the work, it is, this entire project is volunteer based. So people being busy with work is a very common theme with the project, and it's completely fine, right? It's, progress gets done when progress gets done, and we can't really force real life to bend around momentum. It's kind of the other way around. So, but it's good to see you back and working on mapping stuff.
Yeah, and with learn stuff, I mean, we're really excited to see some of the new learn stuff in game.
Exactly. That's coming 097 as well. Yeah.
yeah, coming soon. But yeah, for me, I'm sort of all over the place at the moment. I've been doing bits of our UI work, trying to finish up web rewrite stuff. I've been realizing in the last week that I'm spreading myself way too thin, so I'm actually planning on, in the next week or so, focusing way more on web and trying to think a bit less about UI and other stuff. Because when I'm in really functional mode, I can I can do 4 different projects at once, but at the moment I need to sit down and like actually just grind out the end of web. So yeah. But yeah, I don't know. The last month has been quite fun in lots of ways. I've been really pleased to see different work from different contributors, especially in open source stuff. I'm really lucky that I get to work with a lot of the open source devs, so I can sort of, all their work is really public, and I also want to just shout them out constantly. So we've had really good work from so Jay Padger, who's been doing stuff for the UI for Lumper, which is our BSP editing tool, which is a sort of C# Avalonia based sort of library plus UI sort of standard, bunch of stuff. And yeah, but that seems to be on really good track for 010 at this point, where we're sort of 010 sort of in the sort of next 2-3 months mark, maybe ish. Who knows? Where I mean, it's sort of the biggest update we're going to be doing. Maybe before 1.0. It's a really big update. We've got loads of stuff, and it's really good to see a lot of sort of tooling work going on behind the scenes, actually making a lot of progress there. So that's been really nice. And so yeah, that and web API rewrite getting a lot of love. It's been great. And I guess the last thing I say I was up to, I was streaming last night on this channel doing JavaScript, like panorama intro stuff. I will stream sometime next week, maybe Monday night, but I'm not sure. Depends how much stuff I get prepped before and how much I'm focused on other stuff. I do want to get that done, and I'm going to sit down and do a sort of 3-hour stream of just doing some development of like panorama stuff, because that should be a good incentive for more open source devs to do stuff. I just realized I skipped a slide ahead to Samuel's stupid thing. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's been me all over the place. I'm a mess.
It's just jank right now, but yeah, it's just touching on that. Yeah, the open source, right? The game project has always, like, Momentum has always been focused on open source. The only caveat with getting engine license was we had to close source just the game itself. Through it is what it is, but it makes sense. It's just Valve's requirement there. We want to eventually try to open source as much as we can of chaos in the game. So, we'll be constantly talking with, well, not constantly, but like, periodically checking in with Valve about, allowing certain things to be open source, like our panorama UI and things like that, as well as maybe eventually down the line some code, maybe for some tooling. Especially for our tooling, a lot of our tooling, especially Lumper that was talked about, BSP convert, a lot of this needs to be open source because, right, like not only is it able to be worked on by others that would have more expertise as well, but it's just a much better way to do things, because when it comes to tooling in particular, right, like being able to kind of extend or repair or, right, like upgrade or anything like that, it could be taken on by anybody, right? And so it's always been a core part of Momentum, and it's awesome to see people being involved or wanting to be involved and getting involved with our open source repositories. And thank you, Tom, for leading everybody and teaching everybody to get into it, because it takes a lot of time to do that, and sometimes it's even more time than you would be able to spend on actual coding or any other management related things like code review.
But teaching people programming is obviously always very useful to person teaching, because to articulate stuff properly is to understand it, and you often find by making sure that you can actually teach something, you're getting a much better understanding of what you're talking about. I also just want to say that, I mean, when it comes to stuff like Momentum, where the most contributions or a significant amount come from younger programmers who don't necessarily have sort of industry experience or stuff, it is just an inevitable part of something I think feel like we have a good responsibility to do, is to just be hospitable to new programmers and to be just open to new people. And I don't know, there's a lot of stuff about modern tech industry stuff that I find so depressing, and I would love to be responsible for some people having like a good introduction to programming, as opposed to, I don't know, getting some impression that all that it takes to be a good programmer is watching a bunch of YouTube videos and learning how to do leet code questions or something. Like it's
the Fang grind set. Yeah.
So hopefully Momentum for open source people is a nice way for to get involved with working as an actual collaborative team and doing that, which I feel is as important to a programmer as it is being able to reverse a linked list, or potentially even more. Anyway, that's rambling. Should we move on?
Yeah, we can move on. It's just in summation there, it's great to see people working on open source and contributing to our open source repositories.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll move on. Move to our first question here.
Samuel asks, weapon cube map skins. I feel like I should answer this because...
Go for it.
Currently, we have a setting in game where you can have any weapon that's allowed in the game mode, which gives you dev weapons, including the cube map orbs, which are basically 6 orbs that sort of sit in front of you. And they have absolutely no practical value. And Samuel, who is... I think it's fair to say Samuel and Ninja Cookie are the 2 best Ahop players in the game. I don't know who's better out of the 2, but they're both exceptionally good and shockingly good. Neither of them are actually Half-Life 2 runners as well, which is quite funny. And yeah, Samuel only plays Ahop with the cube map orbs now. So
that's all you need.
Yeah. It's not really a question. I mean, no, we're not doing skins for the cube map orbs. But I love that, like, you're bringing them to more prominence because it's a really funny thing that, yeah, I like. So, yeah, thanks for that. I mean, there may be more stuff with them in the future. We'll see.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
April is coming up.
Yeah, it depends how much dev time.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah. Probably do something else.
Sometime. It's a dream. Anyway, yeah, that's basically it. We're not doing skins for size. Also, all your please play Concs and stuff, we're not playing the game at the end of this, I'm afraid, because I don't have my stream set up for it. So, don't waste your points.
I will note, and just kind of rehashing the information here of, you are able to customize any weapon locally. So if you do get cube map weapon skins, you can absolutely override the orbs to look however you'd like. The main thing about kind of our cosmetics store is just towards the main cosmetics that would be shown in runs, as well as, I guess if this is technically going to stay in as an allowed weapon, we could look into doing some weapon cube map skins because it's funny, but it really just depends how it goes down the line. So it's not off the table, but it's like, realistically, we're going to be focusing more on the main weapons that you would have in these modes. So maybe we can do that, but you can always do it locally. Always locally.
But you do also add there that one of the nice things about our cosmetics is that because it's not some fancy, like, commercial thing where you have a bunch of, psychiatrists or psychologists, like, trying to figure out the best way to get teenagers to spend money on your shit. Like, we can do dumb stuff with skins and not really worry about it, so...
Yeah, and make them, like, super cheap in the cosmetic store. So for those that aren't aware of the cosmetic system, just really quickly, you'll be able to get units, which are our channel points on Twitch as well, in order to spend on a cosmetic store. So all of the cosmetics in the game will be on the store and available. There's no locking or money that you pay in from the outside. It's all through the game. You earn X cosmetic XP, which translates into units as well. And then you can just spend that on whatever cosmetic that you want. And it applies across game modes. It applies, well, I mean, obviously, there are some that are going to be like a sticky bomb launcher or whatever, right? Like, can't really use that everywhere, but you know what I mean. Like, you'll be able to customize things, have cosmetics that apply across lobbies, across your replays, everywhere. So that's kind of how we're approaching cosmetics there, and returning back to a more sane cosmetic approach. And we can have some fun with some of the cosmetics in that store. Yeah.
Move on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that question.
Ask Clappicus / TehBoss, also TehBoss, one of our devs, or web devs. Shout out to TehBoss. Ask Clappicus does not get a shout out. Do Do you have plans on adding a feature to import configs from other source games? Example, turn binds, reset binds, sensitivity, crosshairs, etc. Can I take this one, actually? Because...
Sure.
So, in other source games, I mean, config files are config files, right? A convar is basically, it's essentially a key value. You're just doing, say, it's some string with some convar name, and then you're giving it some, generally some integer value or some number value, right? One thing I added a while ago for the momentum like settings pages is the ability to like export all of, for some section of the settings, to just export all of those convar values as just either just regular strings, or they can encode them into like a base64 encoded encrypted. Well, not, sorry, it's not encrypted. It's just very heavily encoded to be as hard as short a string as it can be, just so it's easier to send to other people. But in both of those cases, I mean, that's a nice way of sending configs for specific settings. We could definitely generalize that to do that for just any setting and allow it to be imported there. That being said, of course, you can just move over config files from other games to Momentum. I mean, as long as those settings exist in both games, those will be fine. Like, we're never going to get rid of those. The reason I immediately bring up my thing is just because as a UI designer, like, we don't want average users to have to mess with config files, right? Of course, people are perfectly willing to, and we're never going to get rid of that functionality. It's just, again, I do UI UX. Like, you have to think about the average user and like how they're gonna. But I mean, in terms of, say, I just want to go through. I mean, turn binds are exactly the same. It's plus left, plus right, and CL your speed. Reset binds do change.
Yes.
Just because the naming changes. Like, it's not a SM_R as in source mod _ restart. Like, it's going to be mom restart and our other stuff. Sensitivity exactly the same. What's really nice is that's the same with like Momentum, Quake, and basically anything based off of that engine. Like, it's really annoying whenever you start playing a new game and you have to use like mousesensitivity.com or whatever to like figure out like exactly what your sense is going to translate to. Like, I mean, I know my sense in inches per 360. Mine's actually exactly 12 inches. But like, sorry, I was going to make some dumb joke, but why? And yeah, like, honestly, like, if you were going to have a universal sense, it should be that. It should be the Quake-based one that like Source has and like loads and loads of other games. Like, it just whatever. Crosshairs are similar to CSGO, but we have some additional stuff and might have more additional stuff in the future. CSGO's crosshairs are half-assed, partly because they don't have a color picker. So, oh no, I think our color picker does have the same convar stuff below. No, yeah. The convar ends up being the same. It's just three. It's a space separated vector, but yeah.
There's also the concept of like we have different modes, and like Conc doesn't really need like a crosshair, if you think, like, you know, like stuff like that where it's like you're not really aiming like exactly a hit scan thing. So there's gonna be some cosmetic differences like that, and behavior and just like different needs. And then there's also the concept of like you also have the wont for different settings for different modes. Mm-hmm. So like your mouse sensitivity and stuff for like Ahop, for example, could probably be higher or lower depending on, you know, how much you want to strafe and move your arm.
Don't do that.
But things like that, right? Like there's kind of like how do you consolidate all of this into a nice UI that could import from games, because we can absolutely find your configs. It's just we would have to write also that translation layer, and then it's also typically a one-time thing, right? Like there's you typically just import it and then kind of tweak it in the settings. So it could be something that's just in our welcome or onboarding UI that we're going to be doing eventually. But yeah, we'll see kind of how that works. But
no, Nick, I did the point in there. So we do have our config files per mode. Like if you have a bhop.cfg file, that gets loaded if you load a bhop map. That is already in and is a trivial thing that's been in since forever knows when. I mean, I don't know, ages and ages. The thing when it comes to game mode configs that is really important to talk about, and we don't have yet, but it's something that I am going to scream about until it's in, and it will be in by 1.0, it's not really my area to work in terms of source stuff. If I have to do it, I will do it now because I have license. But like, we are going to get this in, which is like good UI based game mode per game mode configs. So if you do want to have a different sense but different game mode, I don't recommend it. But if you do want to, we will have UI for that makes that intuitive. I have been shouting about this for about a year and a half now, I'd say. And we are definitely going to do it. We have some good ideas for how to do it. We need, I think, to spec out a little bit more in terms of how the file format's going to work, if we use KV3 or standard config files or whatever and just read and write to those. I don't know.
Right.
We need to chat about it a bit more, but that is a fundamental thing that has to be in Momentum by release, in my opinion. You have to be able to set your sensitivity for different modes, or your, like, for instance, in Ahop, I always have plus walk on mouse 1 for me, like, because, is that XP?
I'm gonna guess. No, that might be me actually. Yeah, there's a chainsaw just going out. Chainsaw massacre right outside.
You got
it's
Chris
pretty cool.
Spawn?
I guess I'll put it on now. All right, here we go.
Say something.
All right, I'm saying something. Is it better now?
Yeah, the magic of AI. Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, no, that sounds completely fine. But no, it really is crucial that if you want to have different keybinds for different modes, which again, I don't recommend changing your sense, but like I use different M1, M2 for pretty much every mode. I mean, I use turn binds in Surf Bhop. In Ahop, I use plus walk plus dark. In Rocketjump Sticky Jump, I use attack 2, attack 1. Like, I mean, that's just a fundamental thing that, like, I personally don't use configs, even though I play the game a fair bit, because I want to annoy myself every time I change mode, just to make me even more annoyed about the fact we don't have this yet. So I'm going to get annoyed every time I change mode until we put this in. So, yeah. We will have the features for importing configs. We will also have features for doing game mode specific stuff. And, yeah. For any game mode, even if you're playing on Gold Source or Quake 3, you're going to be fine with the same sense settings. So, yeah. But yeah, I've gone on way too long. Should we move on?
Yeah.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Arc. Are Momentum replays intended to be a full replacement for Source TV demos? If so, will the ability to record demos be removed/replaced with replays? Will it be possible to manually save a replay for an incomplete run? Several questions.
Yeah, no, I can take these. Yeah, so replays are aiming to be kind of our answer to not needing all of the information that are in Source TV demos. We don't want you to constantly be recording this really old format that just, it saves way too much data that just doesn't really apply to like re-implementing runs. So the replay format is meant to be kind of just this like momentum specific demo kind of replacement. It's not going to replace demos altogether. We might put demos behind kind of this feature flag so that they're not in momentum, but they, as long as they still work and don't crash the game, I don't really see a reason to remove demos at the same time. It's just really like if people want them, they can still have them. There's a lot of what we try to remove from momentum, specifically with compiling, is just kind of features that just don't make sense in the game. So like controller support, right? Like that kind of stuff, we're going to be just kind of not compiling, so that way the game stops yelling at or making it worse for people that have controllers or anything like that. So yeah, the ability to record demos won't be removed. We can leave this in unless it's causing issues, and I mean, I'm sure P2C and other Chaos games, if we have any, would still like to actually use demos, and they won't be using the replay system, so we do have to keep it in the engine. It's just we won't really maintain it, and we won't really have a reason to use it for anything. Like the replays are aiming to be our like kind of format that we need for run validation, for submitting and watching watching runs on the leaderboards and stuff like that. So like yeah, it's all going to be kind of encapsulated in that. And then will it be possible to manually save a replay for an incomplete run? Yes. So one of the cards probably that is over 40 years old now is run attempts. should be saved out as part of like a convar or setting somewhere, so that when you fail a run, instead of it discarding that replay, it just writes it out, and then I guess discards it, right? Like that way, it's written out, and then the other there's even more features that we want to do there, where when you're grinding a map, we can have it so that you either we'll still submit it, but we won't save replays that are like below a threshold if you want to set that. Things like that, where it's like you can save on disk space and not fill up your local leaderboards with like a bunch of 128s when you're trying to go for 125 or whatever, right? So that kind of stuff, we can absolutely add some UI and some nice UX, or some nice UX around, because that's important too, right? Like we want to be able to add that customization of like what exactly you want to see from everything. You can save every single attempt you've ever done. We can have buffers around like, okay, save the last 30 attempts that I've done and just delete the rest. And then that way it's like every run that you try, right, with zones, you just have like this constantly recording and saved buffer. So yeah, these are great questions, and yeah, demos are definitely great, but they're old. They're very old, and you've even seen with CS:GO they had to like, or we've even seen with CS:GO that they've had to like slightly modify how demos work to add little keyframes into it so that you can actually jump in CS:GO around like the different rounds a little bit quicker, because the way that demos work is like it has the initial state and then records the diffs, basically like all of the different like key inputs that you've done over the length of it. It doesn't really store the entire game state, but it reconstructs it, which is not great. For our replays, we want to be able to instantly snap to any part of your run. So we're going to be inherently, going away from demo based, like looking at the demo code, seeing what we can use out of it. But really for our replays, we're trying to get a little more optimized with exactly the data we want, and allowing those features that we'd like as well with the instant snapping and stuff.
Valve,
so, yeah.
Valve certainly wouldn't use anything like their current demo system if they were to like redo it. I feel like it's something that is just gross. And
it's a Quake. It's definitely a Quake engine remnant. It's all over the engine. It's in fact, we might refactor it a bit more, try to pull it out, and then as I was saying, it's like if it's just not really going to be maintained, we can just pull it out if we want to. If it still works, but it's kind of meh to use compared to replays, then we can leave it in. If people really care, we can add some like analytics around if people are actually even using them before deciding whether or not to remove it. But we'll see. We'll kind of see like what happens there. I think replays are going to probably be manually being able to record replays, the replay buffer with attempts, as well as like adjusting how much gets saved, stuff like that. So
Would we ever
sorry.
Yeah, would we ever want to make replays kind of like not reliant on like a start zone and an end zone for like it would kind of fulfill the same purpose as a demo in that case, where you could just like type in a command to just start recording one at any point?
We added that, or Slidey added that a while ago. Yep, we have that command. You can manually record replays currently, so that's still in there. And then we do have some refactors, obviously coming up with 0.11 to the replay format, so that we can store more things like weapon entities, rockets, sticky bombs, stuff like that. Being able to kind of go forward and back throughout the replay, just kind of. It'd be amazing to watch a run in reverse. I don't know if we'll fully support that. We'll see, but we'll see what comes out of the format. It'll be very interesting.
I want to say with some stuff, I don't know how much of Rio's work touches this, but whereas Rio's work on engine state management, or just being able to save state stuff where we can go to just jump to any state of random entities being in weird positions and stuff, and a lot of low-level sort of engine refactors there I don't pay enough attention to replay stuff, but it's really interesting to see like when Slidey and Rio are like messing around with stuff, because there's clearly a lot of stuff going on that we have going on with Source that like you wouldn't expect to be possible, but they make it work. So, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I think after the refactor, replays are pretty much going to fulfill any purpose that demos have.
Well, I mean, it absolutely should. Like, if they were not fulfilling a role there, then people should complain, and we'll improve on. I feel, but I mean, yeah, but at least for our purposes within momentum, right? But it's also just, I mean, the data structure is just better. I mean, and
yeah, it would be better suited for what we need.
Yeah,
Demos
yeah.
are still pretty cool, like the way that they work.
What they do,
just,
yeah. But
it's just what we need. We needed a new format altogether.
Shall we do
Ninja
just did a very brief question. Will we able to rent them out to a video file?
Yes, we do have a plan to integrate Source Video Tool (SVT) or no, sorry, Source. Oh my God,
Source
too many.
recording.
Yeah.
SDR.
SDR. That's right. SVR demo recorder. That was the only. Okay, so Source Video Recorder by Crashport. We plan to integrate directly into the game so that you have a replay, and when you're watching it, we just have a button. That's like render this, right? And then it just uses that library to output, and then that way you don't even have to worry about hooking it.
Or is it doing? Do we then include encoding stuff or?
Yeah, no, it'd be part of that library. So
okay.
we'd be we'd just integrate with that library that would have everything in it. So we just ship with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Should we move on?
Yes. Yeah, we can move on. Thank you, Ark, for these questions.
On y va. Piglet. Regarding distribution, the questions on both monitors. I'm going to read a word from each monitor. No. Regarding distributing financial resources, how do you feel about a grant system that provides resources in areas where the team might be lacking them? Artist commissions, events, chores, or similar? That's a good question.
It's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it currently works. Okay. I mean, in terms of how we decide where money goes, we typically just in our Saturday meetings, our Saturday team meetings, we just bring up any financial concerns around any team members, any team members related problem. So whether or not somebody needs a new monitor, a new PC, whatever, we kind of talk it through and we decide how much of the funds can go towards it. We don't really have a limit on it yet, but we're kind of approaching this idea of we really shouldn't spend more than a third of what's in our pool on
the thing. I think the thing
thing.
I brought up was a tenth. Was that
Oh yeah, right. A tenth.
What is it currently?
Yeah.
It's about 4K. We should really know this, but
Mm-hmm.
but it's always something that I feel like for a bigger organization, we'd want to have very strict guidelines. In fact, and I think coming up to 1.0, we really should actually, and that's something I'll probably nag about. In that guidelines there really are helpful because you don't want to have just random financial decisions just being made by God knows who.
Right. Or just one person in charge of it. It should really be kind of presented in a way. And a grant system makes it feel very formal. I'm not sure if this was meaning more of a grant system towards hey, we need artists to get, tablets or something. And then we have we need $5,000 or whatever for that, all of that. And then we throw it on our Open Collective as a grant or a goal or whatever. Because the Open Collective, I think, has goals that you can do stuff like that. Yeah. Or if you meant more internally towards maybe the team kind of just has a grant system that's hey, the mappers need map rendering farm or something. I'm just kind of coming up with stuff right now, but you know what I mean? Things like that.
It was more geared towards paying people for their time, I think, where we may not have enough concept artists or whatever, so we commission some.
Right. Yeah, that's very true too. It's artist commissions is actually a really good point too, where we're when we're approaching the campaign, we're going to need concept art to have an idea.
So in terms of stuff currently, if it's okay if I butt in, Nick, I mean this is really your thing, but okay. So with a lot of work that's done, I would say by general team members that with a project like this, I mean people will put thousands of hours potentially into stuff. I would say I've probably put well over 1,000 of dev hours into Momentum, right, which is an unpaid thing. Financially, I'm okay at the moment. It's not something that I considered asking for. When I got NDA access, getting like half the money off the drive I bought because it's like an encrypted like USB drive, so I can just get rid of it anytime and not have it on my computer when I'm streaming or whatever. But it's something that's really very specific to the different devs working on it, and that. But it's really like it's devs that are already doing work for us essentially, right? Like with False, Ethan, like False, whatever. Anyway, when he was doing like the player model stuff, like he spent hundreds of hours on like the models in our game. Like I mean, it's something that he, I think, got very very good at Blender partly by doing. But like Ethan's really really good when it comes to 3D work nowadays, and has gotten jobs through that. And I mean, he's exceptional. He's a very very good modeler. And at one point he was like, "Oh yeah, I don't have a second monitor." We were just, and I was like insisting to him that he like, you know, get one off the Open Collective. Like he didn't have a job at the time. He didn't have an income. It was like, you need a second monitor. Like you're doing all this stuff, you deserve like a good like HD monitor as your main monitor. So we paid for that. That seems like a sort of very obvious good uses of funds, because someone has put a absurd amount of time into the game and, you know, deserves it. We don't have a current policy where we're like basing that off of like different time by different team members. We don't log that at all. Like it's really, we talk to each other every week and get like a decent idea of what people have done, but you know, it really varies and it can be hard to tell. So I feel like in our current situation it'd be very hard to do any kind of system that was based off of, you know, pay per time, because stuff is just so, it's just fundamentally based off of just different people's passion for the project. And also, you know, for me with Momentum, part of the reason I do so much stuff on Momentum is I've become way better at programming in a bunch of ways, and you know, I gain a lot from it from doing it personally. Yeah. I've rambled too much. You keep, sorry.
I'll recap by just saying that money starts to complicate things when you start to, like, specifically with commissions, right? It might be okay to do maybe a one-off, but like it gets a little problematic for like how much do you pay for a commission versus like the artists that have been on the team that have been working in free time and free will, right? Do they get any of that too? So it's like really what the team pool is meant to be is just supporting the team that's been doing this free work. It's been easier that way because it's typically just kind of one-off cases of like, I need a new monitor, or hey, I need these new PC parts, and can we get, you know, a little bit budgeted away. So we kind of already do this kind of grant system where we have like like we just evaluate, you know, the areas that the team members that have been pouring their, you know, blood, sweat, and tears, hopefully not too much, into this game, that they can get a nice cut of the money that's been donated, and that, you know, there's enough reasoning behind it to where it's not really abused or going towards the wrong thing, where somebody would get something and then just disappear, right? Like that would be kind of like worst case scenarios. They get on the team, kind of do a little bit, ask for $1,000 worth of something, and then just like leave or whatever, right? We want to minimize that chance by just kind of looking at realistically, what are they asking for? How much have they done? Looking at really like, is this going to improve the workflow towards Momentum, right? And maybe not always Momentum, but still like towards their work that they do for Momentum. And that's really how we view it. When it comes to, and we talked about advertising and things like that, realistically, we're not going to get a good return on the budget that we have. Lots of games and studios and stuff have $15,000+ that they can just drop to advertise their indie game or something, and it's like we've entertained a couple like people that have wanted to do like advertising or whatever for us, but it's always like, it's going to be that much, and it's like, okay, all right, no, we don't have that, and we're just gonna kind of grassroots it, you know. So there's a lot of passion around this game, right? And so getting money more formally involved starts to muddy a lot of that passion. And so I don't want that to happen. That's kind of just my TLDR of this is, we want to make sure that we're communicating as a team around the financial needs of the team, specifically the members, right? Because we're not, there aren't departments in a way. It's really just a bunch of it's a collective. It's a bunch of people. So we don't have like an art department that needs 4 new, Wacom tablets or something, right? Like we have Bray needing a new monitor. We have False needing a new, so there's stuff like that. So, yeah, but it's an interesting idea. And if this was probably a little more formal of a team and like indie studio, yeah, like obviously a grant system kind of being way more on top of like, oh yeah, like being more proactive about the needs of the team as well. But it's just with the variable, donations that are being brought in, which we appreciate every single bit that people donate, either subs on here or in Open Collective directly. It all goes towards it. This goes into the team, and you get better work out of it. So yeah.
I just want to briefly add to that in that in terms of 1.0 release, and when it comes to in terms of server cost, stuff like that, then maybe that stuff does become a bit more formalized then. I think there maybe is a case there, just because we always do want people to know exactly, well, not exactly where their money is going, but that it is being used in a responsible way. And hopefully our Open Collective does make it clear from our current staff.
Yes.
And we can vouch for anyone that is being given money from the OC currently. I mean, for instance, say Happy got, I think we gave, it was 150 USD or 250 USD?
250, yeah.
250.
I'm waiting for them to get the money before submitting the expense.
So Happy's someone that's done a bunch of music work for us before, but also really stepped up in terms of when it's come to localization, and it's been really good there. And also is someone that we have just been speaking to in meetings for the last at least year and a half, I'd say, for Happy. Basically the same time I've been on the team almost, and he's just been someone that has done a lot of work, and we can be confident in doing a lot of work in terms of when it comes to localization management and being the localization leads. And it's sort of just, I don't want to I guess I am singling someone out there, but like I feel like anyone that we are giving money like that to, we can really give a good explanation for the work they've done and why we are pleased to have them on the team and why we think they deserve it. And yeah, when it comes to like server costs and stuff in the future, maybe that gets more complicated, but we'll see. But at the same time, we do a lot of infrastructure talks and stuff, and we are pretty good with our monetary stuff. Not using Amazon Web Service or junk like that.
Right. Yeah, but that's future. We still have to figure out with the new backend. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming up with monetary, like expense related stuff. But right now it's just kind of out of pocket, like for the server and stuff. So we'll
let's move on. Yeah, for
we'll
sure.
be more formal. Yeah, we'll move on, but we'll be more formal in the future with things like that. If we genuinely need like a ton of money, we'll figure it out how best to go about doing that. But I don't see that being a thing.
Yeah.
So.
Moving on. Graru 1. Does Momentum mod allow creating local PRs, brackets, personal records, I don't know why I didn't edit it out, on unofficial supported maps like in game modes like Surf, Bunnyhop, Rocketjump, Ahop, Conc?
That's basically how Momentum mod just started out.
Yep. Yep. So you can create your own zones. Currently it's a little busted because it's UI, and then we also have the zone format refactor, which is coming up, Oteno. So yeah, you can currently create local zones and then have local PRs for any mode, right? So it's just a matter of having the map, and then if you game mode override in the map, you can have all the different modes in that one map. We will plan on having kind of like maps be more environments, and then modes are just ways to play an environment. So like maps that are made for both Sticky Jump and Rocket Jump could actually exist for both modes and have distinct leaderboards for both. Stuff like that we want to allow in the future. Obviously, we don't want to have 2 of the exact same BSP or whatever, right? Just a slightly different name. So yeah, like there's a lot of work to be done for that. But yeah, there's for local PRs, you can absolutely always create like your own zones and be able to to do that. We will also have your own split zones, so that way you can actually have a little more customization over official maps as well around timing. So like if you want to just see how well you hit like a corner or whatever, right, in a really tight map, you can create your own split zone, and that'll cover that case too. That won't like create like a replay or anything, or it won't really show up in replays. It'll just be a local thing that we have. So like in your local replays, if you have that split zone locally on your computer, you can see it. But yeah, so hopefully this answers that. It's how we started, as XB Man said. It is, you just take existing maps, you create your own zones, and then what we just eventually ended up doing was building the web infrastructure backend for the leaderboard, the global leaderboards. So we're going to be
Well, that's kind of a part of O10 is that we sort of understand that some of that structure's not quite right, and so we'll probably rework some of that with O10, and that will work better with our API structure and stuff. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, but the local PRs is always something that you can do. We're
absolutely.
Never
Lock
the like zones or whatever behind. Oh, only official momentum maps have zones or whatever. Like you'll always be able to create zones. So, even offline too.
Cool.
But it won't Anyway. Yeah. Cool. So hopefully that answers that. Thank you for that question. Move on to the next one.
Grow one. How does the latest leak from Valve affect the project? Did it make some impact? I mean, I feel like we could all answer this. Like, it's...
it was interesting.
Was
Valve didn't leak it.
Yeah. No, that's... Yeah. I'll say a little bit, and then Nick can...
Yeah. And then I'll...
Okay. It's... The state of sort of source stuff and people that are sort of really interested in like old source. It's bizarre, and it's something that just had nothing really to do with us, and is something we could never really care about. Like for us as developers and people working on sort of trying to move source forward, or at least that like a lot of stuff about Source 1. There's a lot to like about Source 1. There's a great deal to really dislike about Source 1 and make you want to have a new engine entirely. But genuinely, there's a lot to really like about Source 1, and for something like Momentum, it's we're comfortable working with the Source 1 engine. But, our vision of that engine is something, pretty modern, and something that we spend a lot of time refactoring and improving. How the leak affects us, I mean, it's really a shame if it does mean that Valve licenses less staff and feels just less willing to interact with the community, because there's loads of people, I would like to say us, and I'm sure lots of other projects potentially within this sort of ecosystem that have genuinely good intentions for working with the Source engine. And sort of nostalgically, a lot of people that sort of, grew up on this stuff that have now become good programmers and enjoy working with this. And I think that's a lot of us. It's not me personally. I hate the Source engine, but whatever. So I don't know how much it affects us. We maintain and make a very, very good effort to maintain a very strong relationship with Valve, and anything that's, legally questionable with Valve, we will bring up with them and potentially delay release of something or whatever, just because we want to get exact... So, we were talking about Open Collective before, right? Like, we're not allowed to make money from our game. We run that through with Valve.
That was a question in chat earlier. Why do we make the game free? Yeah, we're not actually legally allowed to make money from the game itself or anything in it.
But with our Open Collective
page,
free. That was something that we ran by Valve Legal and didn't announce until we had... a go-to from them.
Yes.
So, sorry, a go-ahead, not a go-to programmer. Anyway, bad programmer. And so, yeah, it's, for us, like, we really care very, very much about, like, any kind of legal stuff with Valve. It's a real shame that there's stuff that... I don't know if this project I feel care about that less, or it's just weird, attempts trying to get other people trying to get people to leak stuff or whatever. It's depressing that it exists, frankly. It's fucking Source 1, who cares? I don't know, I've ranted enough. Nick, you take over. Take the mic.
So obviously we're okay in the sense of like we didn't leak it, so Valve's not going to destroy us. That's the main thing with code and leaking and everything like that. The people involved with the leak, right? Like that's very bad news for them if they are proven to be the ones guilty or involved. So yeah, so for us, it didn't make any direct impact, but we have followed up with Valve in an email about it and just clarifying, like that we don't condone it and everything. Like it's really disheartening to see it because it's just like,
why?
I mean, like for the I am definitely a firm believer that Source One should be open source, but I mean, I understand Valve's kind of just like hesitancy around it, around there's existing titles, right? CS:GO still technically on it. We were built off of the CS:GO code base, and there's a lot of like negative sides to that because it's like, well, someone's got to maintain it if it's open source and stuff like that. But we're very keen as coders on Chaos to maintain it. But in the same time, it's completely understandable, right? It's their intellectual property that we're not ever going to mess around with like that. We always get permission from them about anything. Open Collective is a good example, but also just like any future things that we want to try to open source, we want to run it by the point of contact we have at Valve about it and just see what they think. Even if it's a no, it's still fine to at least make them aware that like that's what we're thinking and go from there.
Can I just step in there for a sec? Just to say that the fact that Valve have licensed projects that they have is surprisingly generous for Valve. Like,
Correct,
they've been really, really nice with stuff like Momentum. Like, it was honestly a really nice surprise that they did announce... sorry, not announce, that they did license us. Like, it was... So... I don't know, sorry, I had to just butt in to say that like, anything that makes it seem like Valve is being, like, overly, like... brutal to source projects. It's just not true. Like, they've been really, really generous.
Yes.
Like, you don't see many other companies that are like giving out their game code to just like random projects.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
not that common.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of trust that goes into something like that. And every time something like this leak happens, it's just the entire Chaos Discord just grimaces, right? Like we hate seeing it. We hate seeing that because it's just against like what we really want to do it properly, right? With Valve, like we want it open source. Don't get or at least I do. I don't know how other people on the Chaos team feel, but like I would love to have Source One, especially Chaos. I would love to have it open source, but I never ever would ever think about leaking it or going down that route. I would be absolutely demolished by Valve. And not only that, but like it's just not right. Like, and then you want to form a community around leaking shit like that, and then be in the negative light of Valve. Like, you're never going to be talked to by Valve ever again if you do, or like they'll never reach out.
No, it's instantly
the same
toxic
problem
community you can have.
It's the same problem that TF2 Classic and Open Fortress, I think, had because they based their mods off leaked code that was leaked well before. It was like 2007 branch. So it's huge, right? Like Valve understands that the SDK is limited in ways, right? That we've made our case. We were able to pitch and get licensed, and we have a healthy team of developers, and we have a very nice protocol or system in place around making sure that the code's being given to the proper people with proper security clearances. We validate co-signed NDAs to bring people on in the first place. We don't even just be like, I think that's actually how this latest leak happened, was that there was somebody that just like, oh yeah, I got an NDA, wink, and like got access to repos and just started leaking it. So I think even in that case, the person that gave them access is probably actually more at fault here. So yeah, we're very strict about it, and it's just eye-opening, right? It's making us realize that, if there's people being like, hey, I want to contribute to Momentum C++ code, wink, we're a little more hesitant now, especially after these leaks, right, to be trustworthy
That's
of
good
new
for our project
developers.
because it means we get better devs on. Like,
True. Yeah, we do get more trustworthy devs.
And that's been our practice. And then, in terms of Panzer and Bird that we've licensed recently, who have been doing fantastic work. We can't show our Panzer stuff quite yet.
There's some exciting stuff.
Next Q&A. And I've been talking with Bird a lot in the last week, and Bird stuff is fucking great. Like, our attitude has really become like, we want open source people. We want people to contribute to open source stuff before we even consider licensing them at this point, because like it's, if you tell us like you can be really good at source and C++, but you could have spent a lot of time with that just working with leaks. That's just a fact of it. Like it's, and I mean, it's
so but to address the chat, the attitude towards TF2 isn't. Again, like there's, it's very hard to see like, oh yeah, let's just trust these like ragtag team of like whoever, are they really who they say they are, team of developers with our licensed like, code and stuff like that. So it was hard for Momentum. We were trying for multiple years, but that also was its own problem. It was just a lot of internal kind of shuffling of like role at Valve. So we finally got through to the correct person. For the most part, I think that Valve is very, I think generous with licensing us. We're very, very on good terms with them. I hope still. Hopefully they'd let us know if anything like that changes. Obviously this leak, because it wasn't from us and because we're in good conversation with them, we're okay. The project's completely fine. We're all of the licensed developers have, realize the stain that this causes on reputation around people that are involved with licensed code, but it might be harder to license more devs on Momentum because of it, because they'll be extremely careful around bringing more people on or NDAing specific people. So that does suck,
that's good in a way.
Honestly, it is. However, it is good to have that caution and but it's also really easy to see it as like, oh, now that we have license, who cares who gets it? But at the same time, it's like,
if Valve want to ask us like, why are you licensing this person, and someone that is already a licensed dev is required to give several paragraphs saying what this person has done already, great. I mean, we could do that for all the people we have licensed. Like, there's something, and if Valve want to contact us and be like, oh yeah, what's every dev doing? Like, we can give you a good rundown on what everyone's doing, because it's something we care about, and
So hopefully this answers this. It's a good question. It sucks that it happens, and it's just shit that this kind of behavior exists in the greater source community. I think Momentum in general is lucky in a sense that we don't have that kind of crowd attached. There's a lot of people addicted to kind of like beta code and like leaked code, and like it's bad. But with Momentum
get
kind
a job.
Being more towards a niche like movement speedrunning, like we don't really care about Half-Life 2 beta stuff or Half-Life 3 or whatever.
Like, I just have to add to that, in the P2CE are doing a game based on Portal 2, and the people like these are the other people on our sister project on Chaos, Portal 2 Community Edition, and they're wonderful, and we talk with them daily, and, they have a fantastic attitude. So, I don't know, there's definitely weirdos, but, like, I don't know, I
From a, like, moderation standpoint, like, we were keeping our eyes out because we were expecting people to start, like, posting links and whatever.
Right.
But in terms of this Discord, there was, like, basically nothing, which like I think it's just the attitude that the community that we have kind of differs from some of the other source projects.
Who cares?
Exactly.
I don't care what like the announcer looks like or whatever. I don't know, like the TF2 leaks or whatever.
It's interesting. It is, and don't get me wrong, right? Like it is interesting to see that kind of, but not only do we have access to the stuff that leaked, obviously, like because we have legal access from Valve to the actual thing that Valve gives you, but it's like it is interesting. I'll say, and that's pretty much all I can say legally. Like it is, I could see why people would be interested in it. I'm just glad that our community doesn't give a shit and they'd rather just surf. Like that's. I'm just happy that it's like I'm proud of our community. That meme. Anyway, no, I genuinely am like happy that our community is the way they are. So
I find all the leak stuff just profoundly boring. I don't know. I have thousands of hours in TF2. I don't care what like the Fem Scout is, or I don't know what is in the leaks.
Right, yeah. So just keep in mind whenever leaks like that happen, if it's some unrelated team, it's just us being upset that it's just another stain in the best general thing for source us community. Because that we're loosely tied to, right? Because we're still a source mod, or sorry, source game, and like
ultimately, like we get to spend this was earlier this Saturday. We have a Saturday meeting with other Chaos devs on Momentum, P2CE, devs like just being adults in a voice channel, having a meeting and stuff, and thinking about the contrast between that and then just deranged source leakers is depressing. Anyway, I'm sorry. Let's move on.
All right, thank you for that question.
I'm going to go to the toilet. So I'm going to let you read this.
Okay.
And,
All right.
Have fun.
I will.
All right, cool.
Thanks.
All right, I'll get this next one from Resistance. You're on it. Okay, nice. Resistance asks, how professional, in quotes, should mappers be when making maps for Momentum? For example, Jump Anti has a meme on almost every jump. Would something like that be discouraged/disallowed? Excellent question. We will have a community guidelines that we want to extend across basically every social platform that Momentum touches, right? So forums, if we end up getting those back again, or our Steam forums, our Discord, in-game chat, right? Like we want to have a consistent set of rules of just being a fucking decent person, right? Like you can make jokes. If like the real thing, right, in terms of professional shitpost maps are funny. They can be, right? Like they can be pretty funny and subvert expectations and make people laugh as they play through them because usually most of those maps, right, have some kind of like parody-esque feature to them, right? Where you're probably used to a bunch of like really high quality maps and then you play something like that and it's just funny. A meme on every jump, I mean, there's entire maps made for that. There's Surf Internet, right? That XB Man could talk about, where it's literally entire stages are built around different subcultures or whatever of the internet. Just like Surf Fruits is like different fruits that you could,
and
eat.
Surf Fruits has like there's Surf Fruits with like 2 O's. That's like it's literally just a parody of the other Surf Fruits where it's like intentionally just like an eyesore. Right.
And so, I mean, there's a balance that we're going to hit. Obviously, like, we don't want garbage. Momentum's not going to be this purveyor, this platform that allows you to just publish garbage and force people to play in order to get rank points on or whatever. We want to have a sense of quality that extends to every map. That doesn't mean in the sense of style, right? Like, you can have dev textures, like, you can have, I mean, for the most part, if it's aesthetically pleasing, as in you put effort into making it, even if that effort is towards memeing on every map or every stage or something, that's fine, right? Like we want to see kind of people improve. I mean, obviously there's going to be first time mappers, but when it comes to things like surf porn, surf fruits too has some questionable things in it that we would probably either edit the map or probably not add because of. It's really just coming down to being a decent person. Is this following our guidelines of like just being decent human beings, not really ridiculing or being racist, being xenophobic, anything like that, where we want people to feel good when they play our game, right? Like we don't want to because adding a map like that, right, that has subtle jokes or even just straight up slurs in the fucking entity names, Jesus Christ, like that kind of stuff is just like it would come across as like us promoting it, like us being okay with it, even though we didn't. I know we didn't create the map. We could like do that bullshit, but like, oh, I'm just asking questions. No,
it's not about that. It's about us. Like
shit.
we should, if we do add stuff like that, it's something we should take responsibility for because we shouldn't be allowing it.
In the sense
I
of
don't want
like
to work on
what
a
it
game
means.
that has slurs in the entities and stuff. Like that sucks.
Right. Exactly. It's just terrible behavior like that where it's not decent human being.
Can I just say the thing I really wanted to add to there, and this is something that might be more controversial, is just stuff that's just bait. In that, like, if you're doing something that is sort of like obviously made with racist intent, but like is not like sort of definitively racist or something like that. We've had that before, and I think
Fruits too actually has.
That's what I was talking about. Which I guess I don't really want to go into the details of it, but
right, no, we don't have to. But yeah, like obviously, if it's getting baity to where we have
anyone
the map
that knows that map, that is something that I would say no to. And I, as a team member and a person majorly involved with this project, some people might disagree with me with that, but that's actually something I would be pretty adamant about, and I'd get really angry about if we were to allow that. I would say that mapper has to change that for it to be submitted, because I think that is, whilst it's not clearly racist in some, like, you know, very sort of dictionary sense, it is obviously made with racist intent. And again, it is kind of depressing to talk about, but it is something that becomes just part of Unity map submission. And I think it is important for us to say that that is straightforwardly not something we're going to allow. Hopefully that's something you agree with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I do. I do.
Like, even if it's like a joke, even if it's something that's really small, that it kind of adds up to how our community behaves.
Yeah.
And what they expect. And yeah, we don't want things like that kind of sneaking in and that kind of behavior.
Yeah. Well, it's I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
So it's the whole. I mean, there's the whole. Was it like Nazi bar kind of analogy of like you allow a nicer Nazi into your bar, and soon enough their friends, you know, bring more and more Nazi friends, and then now you're known as the Nazi bar. I don't want that to happen to Momentum. I think that a lot of the time when we approve a map, when we have this map review process, we will catch things like this, right? Like we will have discussions with the mappers discussing intent. Is this just a joke, right? Do we, you know, is this just a joke that they're telling in poor taste that we can just catch and remove and or have them change before they add it? The main thing that I would say is if you're trying to add a map to Momentum, imagine as if you were doing a presentation on it to everyone in the world, because that's what you're doing. You're posting it to a global website that anyone around the world can view, which means that different cultures are also going to see it. So while it might be okay in the US to have specific, I don't know, religious figures in your map or something, it might not be that funny across the world. And then not only that, it wouldn't necessarily be the mapper that would get the flack for it either. So again, that ties in with like, we would basically be the ones presenting it. So that's how we're going to view it in the sense of professional. It doesn't have to be extremely high quality polished, like, you know, it can have memes in it. Memes are great. I love memes. I think memes are awesome, right? Make a map with a bunch of cat memes in it and it will likely be added immediately. No, it's just, but that's what I mean. It's like there's that sense of presentation that you're doing to a worldwide audience that you have to be considerate of. There's a lot of people that don't like being considerate of others, and that's something that we want to filter out with content in a map, right? That's kind of our stance that we'll be taking. And yeah, obviously bait or things like that where it's like on the edge of like, is it actually written?
That's the thing.
If we have to question it at all, it's most likely not going to be
It's so
allowed.
obvious when it's bullshit.
Like
that's the thing. Is like, yeah, okay, I've done something that's like when you see people trying to submit racist content to like any kind of thing, like it's always aimed to be something that's gonna like create some kind of debate between the moderators or whatever or shit like that. Like, I deeply think our goal with moderation should be to just avoid stuff like that. If someone's posting
Yeah,
stuff that
if there's
clearly
any...
has some like weird racist signifier that like we're unsure about,
Yeah.
we don't
Just
want to
remove
like
it.
if it's
Right.
if it's something that has some complex like cultural, I don't know, but like it generally is so fucking obvious, and it's like
Yeah, and the goal with our map review team is to be diverse in opinion, right? We want to have people, even just if they're like, it's more just like asking, about how they feel about like something like that, too. But it's very important for maps to be professional in the sense of like, this is something that you want to be proud of, that you want to like, you won't kind of like be grimacing, or I keep using that, but like you won't like your mom if your mom plays the map. This is not a mom joke. I'm just saying like your family members, right? Like if they play the map, are they gonna be like, what the fuck is this? Like that kind of thing. So obviously having some common sense in our map review process and just having different views, right? Different from different cultures and different backgrounds will help us kind of wash out things like this where it's probably, if it's questionable, we're probably just going to remove it. Like, and if the mapper is insistent on it, like, it's like we just tell them no. Like, I mean, there's no, like I know like people might feel obligated to be on Momentum, but we definitely have the final say whether or not a map is publicly distributed and like being presented by us on our map selector. And especially when it extends over to like, do we do map showcase or map author showcases on our YouTube channel, like kind of highlighting the community more, or our community more, right? Like we want to make sure that we're not showing off somebody who's just secretly just really bad. And then when it comes to like sexually explicit stuff, I mean, like we're trying to go for like a T rating, right? Like, I mean, we're not gonna add like just straight up like porn, gore, whatever textures. I think there's some merit to things being phallic shaped. There's probably some threshold there, but for the most part, right? Like it has to be kind of like,
if it's some
damn, this
dumb
pun's
dick
gonna suck,
joke,
but it has to be in good taste.
Yeah. Well, no, I feel like if it's some dumb dick joke, then who really cares? Like, it's just
right. Like,
it's
there's
childish,
levels
but
of it where it's
but like,
yeah.
The thing I don't like is just like the need to be constantly titillated. You don't need a porn room. Get rid of the porn room.
Right. There's so many better places to go and find that.
Yeah.
Why would you want it in
precisely?
Why?
Precisely.
I don't know. Penis-shaped ramps. Who cares?
It's really just a matter of getting perspective on everything. If it's really obtuse and maybe because we're guys, right? Like we don't like really think about it that way. It's just a matter of getting people's opinions on it. And then obviously as maps get released and things get maybe found that we missed, we'll add it to our map review checklist. We can remove maps. We don't really want to, right? We want to make sure that when maps are added, it got a stamp of approval from us. We're very proud to have these maps on our site, in our game. But we really want to be careful just to not, because again, we're a global platform. Every single person everywhere is going to be looking at your map. Is it something you'd be proud to show them? So that's where I'll leave it there. And then, is there any other input for Resistance's question here?
I think also just like, even if there's content in your map that like doesn't suit our game, that doesn't mean that like you're not allowed to play it. It just means that we're not going to be like platforming it. Like you can always share your maps just through other platforms if like Game Banana will allow it, and if people want to download it and like load it in Momentum, like we're not going to stop people from doing that.
Yeah,
but
never.
It's just when we have it on our website, it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And also we have a legal responsibility for stuff we host, so yeah.
Exactly. In a way, I mean, we're going to be safe harboring in the sense that we trust that the submitter, right, owns the copyright to everything that they have, like it's original memes that they created and things like that. So we're hoping that that at least isn't really the main problem. But
I pinged you on Discord, Nick. But can we go a little quicker because I want to go to bed at some point, and we have at least half left, and we are aiming to do it in under 2 hours. Oh my god, you can see my fire fall. What is the
All right.
view slideshow? Where are we at? So Zimo, are there plans for opening and supporting a Steam workshop to share custom extensions for custom HUDs, custom data loggers, or maybe even high-level mods? Okay, I'm going to cut off the first bit. So in terms of Steam Workshop and extension, so HUDs maybe, but it's complicated because of how we're doing HUD customization. That could work really well. We're going to see. It really depends on the data structure of how we're doing HUD customization. HUD customization is something we care about a ton. At least I do a lot. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to work on in all of UI is HUD customization. Coming from, doing stuff like TF2 HUDs or whatever, it's really fun. Data loggers. What? And then high-level mods, probably
I think
not.
it's like SSJ and stuff like that, where it's like outputting data.
So we're not going to give that stuff IO, I would assume. So...
Right, there's no files.
Yeah, Nick,
it would be the chat or your own panel.
Yeah, that Pano can do that. I'm not quite sure how to address. I mean, Nick, do you want to answer this properly? I don't know.
Yes. So Workshop is aiming to be kind of this miscellaneous things. We do have to implement our HUD customization first, just to see how it kind of works, and how well it'll extend over to going to Workshop and stuff like that. But I think it should be possible to do something like that. High level mods, no. We want to have kind of control over the competitive leaderboard side of things. Maybe towards 2.0, we can have custom settings and stuff that you can package up and put on Workshop to be able to create a custom game mode. We definitely want to support that down the line. But when it comes to here's a new game mode that you have to use the Workshop in order to play, it's kind of defeats the purpose of what Momentum's trying to do. Custom data loggers, you should be able to SSJ if that's what you mean, unless you mean key loggers or something.
That's what I was thinking.
No, that's illegal. We're not going to distribute those, but we will, or we're not going to approve those. But when it comes to SSJ and stuff like that, we'll see kind of how Workshop support's going to work. It's going to be more miscellaneous stuff though. Maps and stuff are going to be through the main site, including map testing and things like that. So maps are already covered. And then, in terms of HUD or any other general settings that we might have down the line,
we need to write our own API for stuff like that. HUD.
There's also in terms of cosmetics. Cosmetics, custom models and stuff. Maybe too.
No,
we might have the vote edition.
Yeah. No, I really like the way TF2 was doing its custom cosmetic stuff and additions there. I think that is probably the best use we could get out of Steam Workshop because, we have good modelers on the team, but they're not. They have other jobs, limited. And a lot of the time they're doing Momentum stuff and then getting springboarded into actually full-time 3D jobs and stuff. It's we would much rather get community submissions.
Community submissions around kind of cosmetics would also be something that we would love to do, just so that it's a vote and then get it into the shop, the actual official shop, and then have that be available.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. Hopefully that answers that. Thank you, Zimo, for that question.
New Zimo thing. Plans to incorporate task utilities within the game. If not, will there be a platform that could support that?
No.
It'll be... Yeah. I think we can really go through this very quickly. We're not allowing third-party task software that hooks into the source like Counter-Strike does. Don't do that. If you do, then it won't work. We're not going to explain why it won't work very much. You can probably get an inkling from what we said about AC, but don't do that. It won't work.
It will be in the game. It will be officially in the game. Yeah. So don't worry about having to download any sketchy deal.
Yeah. If you want to do tasks, do it in an official task. Don't do some task tool and then submit that to the official leaderboard. That's the reason we want to have a task leaderboard. Task is fun, for sure. That doesn't mean it should be...
It's very
task
cool
should never be synonymous with cheating, right? Task is really cool. It's just... Whenever, it's really depressing whenever that and cheating sort of coincide. They should be completely separate things.
It's all about intent. Are you using tasks to show off a cool route? Or are you getting number one on the leaderboard? So but in our case it'll be It'll be both. We'll have task leaderboards
Task
and
leaderboards.
built-in task tools. Our plan is to reach out to Batman to do so, and integrate their tooling in if they're still on board with that. It's just not currently the priority. Again, our main priority right now is zone refactor and replay refactor. Once we get those in, absolutely reaching out to Batman, getting tasks in. It would be something that's either before 1.0 if there's some dev capacity. Otherwise, maybe right after 1.0. But we do want to have it in because it's ideally a path forward for people that would otherwise be doing tasks not so legally in our game. So legally, officially, right? So
just to address just Jim's question, is task leaderboard for full tasks or just leaderboard like save lock runs? No, it'll be full tasks. That's what we're aiming for.
And we will have, though save locked runs will actually also have a leaderboard too. We'll have those as segmented runs.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, Batman stuff is.
We can do segmented.
Okay. Yeah. No, and there's obviously so much fun to have that. Just doing like, I mean, I play a lot of Ahop and Ahop Coast and stuff. Like segging that is. I don't think segging is a word anyone says, but yeah, it's really fun. Anyway, move on.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you, Zimo, for that question as well.
I think this was 3 different questions that I think you merged into one, Nick, or what happened? There was several questions from NotEagle. Oh, I don't want to ruin Firefox. Wait, Control F5. Okay, I'm going to read NotEagle's questions. I think they're all somewhat interlinked, but they might be...
Okay.
Where is Q&A Live? Discord. Don't do this to me now. Wait, where is Q&A Live? Momentum?
Under Momentum.
Q&A Live. Sorry, yeah. Okay, NotEagle questions all begin with, will mappers be able to... First question, disable player paint decals on materials.
Maybe. There's already things that don't allow decals to be placed on them, I think, so that might already be in, but we would need to make sure that it's that it makes sense. If it's like credits or like a name panel, that makes sense. But like if it's like a part of the map that would like otherwise, I don't know. For the most part, we want to reduce the need for paint for a lot of like you need to put paint down in order to run a map or something. We want to reduce that as much as possible in the map review. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't see a reason why you shouldn't be able to prevent paint if it's on things like a credits panel or just like important kind of like, important things anyway. I don't know. I don't think we're really going to dictate that. I mean, people will probably yell at the mapper if it's not possible. And if possible, it could probably just be a material variable. And then we just update the map to have the material variable removed or added or whatever. So we could look into that. But yeah, for the most part, we're not going to doctor that.
Paint already doesn't apply on things that aren't physically solid, right?
Yes. Yep. So you can
just do that and then clip it, but we can
Maybe
add more options for that.
Yeah. Will mappers be able to define zones where checkpoints won't work?
So, the zoning update's going to be adding a lot of kind of like linear and non-linear kind of map related stuff. So hitting required zones right before you can actually finish a map will be something that we can add. Adding ordered zones that you have to hit them in order to actually like do the map properly is I think how we currently do it, sort of. There's a lot of kind of like ideas around kind of how flow, right? Like flow state, having a more open map that you just have to collect everything, and it's an open map. It's kind of more trick style of like there's like these things all around, and it's you kind of spawn in the middle or something, and it's up to you to determine the route that you take to bunny hop through or something like that to get all of them. I'm definitely open to that being a possibility, and that would be. We obviously don't want to have just one zone for that map. We want to have like however many collectibles you have, but then you could take any path through it. So it just kind of like add up the splits that you do as you hit each of the like key points. So that is definitely something we want to add, just the non-linear side of it. In terms of canceling a timer, like going a specific route and canceling a timer, we will have cancel zones as well. It's just a stop zone that doesn't submit. So those will be a thing as well. If you're like worried about them taking a specific route or something, you could do that. But that's more of like a contingency plan. Ideally, the map itself should be preventing the player from going that way, if that makes sense. So
In the future, I think there's also I don't know if this is written down in the specs or not, but being able to apply like specific like logic entities within the map to a zone that's like for filter entities, so that the map logic can kind of determine whether or not you're like valid to hit this checkpoint zone or not.
Yes. Yep. And then there's also the case of if you hit the end trigger before it's ready, like before you hit all the required zones, it won't actually stop the timer. Things like that. We'll have like little UI pop up or a little toast or something being like, you haven't completed the map, go hit all the required things. So things like that will be allowed, yeah.
I need to shout at you more to finish the zoning spec.
Yeah, that's coming up.
I'm going to shout.
There's a lot. Yeah.
All right.
The shouting, yeah.
A lot more shouting coming up. Sorry, the last NotEagle thing was, will mappers be able to change some movements of ours, like SV air accelerate? Can I do this one?
Mostly, it depends. Yeah.
You do it. Well, my opinion is anything like that, they're going to be separate leaderboards. If you're doing something really weird like max val, there should be a track property so we can show that in UI.
Yeah.
And so if the main track has an increased max val for surf, which is most common, like, then there's going to be in the UI that we show for the main track stuff. The other movements, cvars, like, it's not up to you what the tick rate is. Like, that's going to be...
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, Nick, you finish that. Yeah.
Yes. So it depends. It depends on what you're trying to change. Max val is, ideally something that we can just convey via a simple UI element.
It should be part of the zone UI, like or the zone properties. So each track has its own max val, and then you put that
track
in
property.
And that way we can show nicely in UI and on web and stuff, and it works well.
Yes. Yeah, and the main thing is just to keep in mind that the modes need to be consistent, because people learning the modes are going to be learning it based on SVR accelerate 150 or whatever, like things like that, where if you start to alternate that in a way that's not conveyed easily, I mean, obviously like anti-grab and stuff will be allowed, but like things like air accelerate or tick rate changing, those are subtle things that your average player is not going to really know what the fuck, like, why are my strafes, why am I going slower, why am I not able to strafe, what's going on? Like those kinds of things, it alters the game too much to where you're not really playing the mode anymore, you're playing an off mode of it. And it's in that sense, that's more of something that would be like, well, we could add alternate tick rates as like bonus leaderboards, so like it's not the main mode, and maybe you don't get rank points for beating a map at 125 tick because it's normally 66 or something, but we can have that supported and in some capacity supported, and like what you're getting into if you're doing it, but otherwise it's not really mapper dictated in the sense here. That's where we kind of draw the line, is like the modes need to be consistent. Otherwise, people that have learned them and have been playing all these other modes are just, they're not gonna, know what the air accelerate being more, right? Like my strafes are getting me across the map, and all I do is press A and D twice or something, right? Like things like that. Like, yeah, we don't want to do. But if there are mechanics that are involved with maybe altering air accelerate or things like that, having a trigger, having a volume that maybe makes it way more clear that things are changing like that, tick rate's not going to be able to be changed during the map. So you do set it and lock it in with the run that you do, basically. So yeah, we'll see kind of how that goes, but it really just depends on like what the mapper's trying to do by changing these vars. Like what I mean, like it starts to become so much of a bastardization of the original mode that should we even really entertain the idea of having a leaderboard for it? Because it's like, this isn't even Bunnyhop anymore. No, things like that, right? Where it's like, what am I playing? And then like people just don't know how to do it, and then they just don't enjoy the map, and then they also hate us because like we didn't convey like what that means in terms of like changing AirXL and stuff like that. It's way more fun to have consistent movement, but then just like different map mechanics, maybe, like a grappling hook and stuff like that, it's very clearly able to be displayed and like educated and then used temporarily in that map, as opposed to like, hey, this invisible setting that you have no idea what it actually means just changed. So we'll have a UI element for if like max val and stuff is raised, because that's a little more palatable. You can go faster, right? I guess because the max val's higher. But things like AirXL, tick, all of that's kind of more opt-in. You have to know what you're doing to like enable it, and less of a mapper thing. So And then there's just things that just don't make sense to change. You know, like I mean, it's cool to see like Gorge's like gimmick maps and things like that, where you have like rockets that can bounce, like like grenades or something and stuff like that, or a rocket that you fire and it goes down and like tracks you or something and then hits you later, or the DDR style pogo or air
If that's just map entities and stuff, then whatever.
Yeah, that's map entities. That's not really like, but those aren't movement cvars. That's just gimmick and kind of like fun things to try to do in mapping.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, maybe we give some tracks, or we do some silly maps that their main track is just stupid cvars. Obviously, it doesn't get ranked, but the reason I always get like uppity about this is Pacman, yeah. I was vaguely considering like if we were gonna do like a game show for the end of it, it would just be Ninja's Pacman map. We could do that. But the unranked maps that have stupid cvars, those could still be cvars that are just correspond to like settings in the main track. The main thing for me is that like if a map does have weird settings, it needs to be made clear in the UI. Like, it shouldn't be ambiguous whether a map has a different max velocity or something like that.
Correct.
The best way we do that is not by storing that in BSP data, because BSP data, even with Lampa,
has to be a track
is annoying. Mm-hmm. It's much better having it in our zone files, in track properties ideally, where you can track that really easily, and then we can correspond that to UI. And that's not placing a restriction on the mapper, because they choose the zone files they send to us. Like, they might get updated in the future, but they're still ultimately choosing those. So, yeah. That's why I think putting that stuff on zone tracks is so important. But should we move on?
Absolutely. Thank you, NotEagle, for those questions. Hopefully that answers that.
By the way, in 47 minutes, I fall asleep. Whatever happens, and then the slides don't move. God. That's not true, but I'll manage. But okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Kolo asks, how is the skill progression planned for the campaign? Why am I looking at it in the wait? Ignore me. Too many monitors. By that I mean 2. Kolo asks, how is the skill progression planned for the campaign? Will you start with basics and move up, or stay low but harder mechanics will allow you to progress faster? If that's the case, will there be intended skips outside of just going fast? Nick.
So this was I think we talked about the campaign in the last one. So this is a good question. Yes. So absolutely. So we will start the campaign with a tutorial section. Very basic, kind of very, very primitive, like air strafing. Here's the sticky launcher, and here's how it works, kind of things. And it'll be more guided. It'll be like the learn section segments, right, that you could do, but more guided and tied in with the story. This will lead to a hub world, and the idea with each of the worlds is that there's obviously worlds 1 through 5, and like. You start world 1, and wow, revolutionary gameplay. But you start off with kind of learning through playing, applying kind of that tutorial stuff, but learning through like, oh snap, here's some obstacles that you're gonna have to get around, and then learning mechanics around like a booster, right? Kind of the Portal 2 hub started to show it, right? You would go into Test Chambers 2, right, and get the light bridge, and then the light bridge brings you over to the excursion funnel course, and the excursion funnel, right, like. Then opens up, and that's the 5th one, right? Like there's stuff like that. That's really we're really drawing inspiration from. You kind of teach mechanics, map mechanics, like through the campaign that way. But the idea is to kind of, at worst, it's going to be a tier 3 campaign. Just the base campaign shipped at 2.0. We do want to have a hard mode DLC. I would love to have a hard mode like DLC kind of like expansion pack that's like upwards of tier 5. That starts to get, or I guess like current tier 5. So it'd probably be more towards like tier 7 in the 10 scale, or like tier 6, 7. So yeah, like we really want to have that sense of like the progression towards World 5, that you understand all of the mechanics that are going into the maps, and now World 5 is just this like have at it. When it comes to progressing faster, if you know what you're doing, that won't be hard. That's kind of how we're going to be designing it, is like, we don't want to hold you back for no reason. So there will be ways to speedrun it, and obviously down the line we want to have a speedrun mode for it. This is where the speedrun.com, leaderboards and stuff like that could go, or we could have in-game ones. We'll see how it goes. But we want to have a speedrun mode for it where you can start from fresh and go through. So yeah, there are if I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of maps where it's like if you know how to air pogo with sticky jump, you could probably just fly through a lot of the maps and stuff like that, right? Like if you are very skilled, if you are soup coming into this into this campaign, you will probably beat it in 20 minutes to 30 minutes.
Stuff like sticky jump, we would make an effort to make sure that you can't air pogo absolutely everything.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll have some mechanics that make it a little more okay. You actually have to you have to use the sticky launcher or be very precise with things. So yeah, there's I'm just really excited because we'll have the campaign will lead you up to that, being that tier 3-ish kind of player, and that way you can go and play the custom maps and learn more through more of the maps there, get better at your skills, and then the hard mode DLC for when you're ready for that, you can go and do that. But then also just speedrun mode and just seeing because on top of all of that, right, people are gonna find insane routes and lines to take. Another detail about the campaign, so the worlds, right, we have 5 worlds, and then in each world there's around it's arbitrary right now, but 10 stages, right? And the idea is that in a final stage, right, and the idea is that the individual stages can unlock parts of that final stage, like making walls solid, making ramps solid. So if you beat all 10 and then do the final, pretty easy, right? Pretty straightforward. You have every route that you can do. But if you're speedrunning or want to, kind of challenge yourself, maybe you do half. Maybe you do the first 5. And now it's a harder end level, but you can still do it and beat it if you want to. So there's definitely... we'll have to see how that works because it's going to be a lot of balancing. But then that will lead to some interesting speedrun routes because it's what do you trade? It's do you do more of the stages to get a more consistent route, or do you take more of a chance to get a faster time, but you have to be more consistent, or you have to do a harder route. So it'll be very interesting. And then harder mechanics allow you to progress faster. If that's the case, will there be intended skips outside of going fast? Yes. Knowing a speedrun community, I am looking forward to people busting apart the campaign stages. Obviously, we will design and be speedrunning it ourselves. It's a speedrun game, right? So we'll be doing the routes, right? People find awesome routes to do through them. But I'm sure, right, with the infinite wisdom of the community, the game mode communities, we will be able to find, or people will be able to find some batshit insane routes that I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing. I'm making this game because I want to play it. I will be speedrunning the game. I will be running it. That will be my next speed game when it drops.
I just really want to butt in there in terms of fast routes, and I mean, we don't give a lot of thought to speed campaign mapping at the moment because we're not thinking about campaign much at the moment, frankly. 1.0 is the thing we're thinking about. When it comes to Orcs' mapping work at the moment, that is a massive inspiration, I think, for stuff we should take to every game mode in a way. Orcs has a map that will come out, I think, in 2029. Which is going to be really, really good, and we're looking forward to it a lot. Orcs' new map is really fucking good. It will come out eventually. But his attitude to routing there, I would say, is kind of summarizes how I think a lot of us on the team feel about routing when it comes to definitely Ahop, but I think it sort of applies to a lot of other modes as well, and can apply really well where it comes to doing sort of multiple routes for one map. So yeah, hopefully Orcs will give us a lot of contribution there, or feedback, or inspiration. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. There's. This is definitely something to be focusing on after 1.0, but yes, it is something that we will be very excited to implement and be iterating on. So I'm looking forward to that. Right. I'm in this for the long haul. So this campaign is going to be awesome.
Yeah. I'm in it till 0.10.4. No, that's not true.
Okay.
No, I'm in it till release. Campaign, I don't know.
That's the official burnout.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm burning out after 1.0 probably for at least 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, we
At
can
least
just
3
play
months.
the game for like a solid.
We're
3
gonna
months,
play the
yeah.
game for at least 3 months before we think about campaign. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
for God's sake, this question. Okay, Murgle asks, it seems like quite a few people in the serve community share the sentiment that momentum mod is easier than KSF 66 tick, sorry.
Mhm.
Is this objectively backed, and what are the team's thoughts?
Okay, I'll take this one because I feel like Tom, you'll start saying a lot of things. Yeah, so there is there's kind of multiple sides to this. First of all, we use CSS's movement code exactly. We have permission. We had permission from Valve. We got the exact code that shipped in like CSS that you play on on any KSF server that's over there. It is 1-to-1 the exact same. On top of that, we have fixed things like inconsistent jump heights. You now jump 64s consistently. You don't have to count ducks or anything like that. We've gotten rid of ramp bugs, right? We've made ramps better through various fixes there. We've also fixed, like, for example, consistent slope speed that you get from jumping off of a slope, jumping up slopes. We have Rio's wonderful fixes there, RNG fixes there that are even better than the plugin, I believe, that are in there. The other thing that I want to note here is that we don't know what is running on servers. We don't know what plugins do things. And so it's hard for us to make a comparison without just kind of playing it. But there is, I mean, the opinion tends to flip-flop between easy and hard almost every other like 3 months. I don't know what's going on. There's also just a lot of sense around. I think Beetle.
I know what's going on.
In one of his streams is there's a lot of people that practice or play the map first in Momentum and then go and play KSF or something like that. And it could be easier or it could be harder that way just because of the difference with ping, with the difference of just how the game performs. It's very weird to say it, but I mean, yeah, like we've been making a lot of optimizations to the engine itself around just how well it runs and what graphics hardware and how responsive. The main things to note here is m_raw input 2, which actually does inner frame interpolation of your mouse. So you can play on whatever frame rate that you want to, and you will get the exact same gains now, because that's amazing work by Rio there. There's work towards DX11. We now have full screen borderless as an option. Like it's effectively full screen. Right, like it's effectively the same as like being full screen. So no input lag there with being full screen or windowed rather. We're taking advantage of the more modern APIs that we get from forcing people to go on to DirectX 11 and things like that. So the engine itself could make things feel better, and that better feeling could be an easier feeling overall.
But also, it's more consistent. Like
consistency is very, very, very important. Absolutely. Like it is, because we want the game to not rely on, oh, did you crouch twice before you hit this, jump, so that way you can get up onto this. No, like we want to be able to have it just be like, yeah, you can very consistently, like determinism, right, is the idea that like no matter what you do, if you do the exact same thing, you'll always get the exact same output, right? We want deterministic gameplay.
Horrible for ethics, really good for game engines. So,
So anyway, there's definitely a sentiment that can come from any of those improvements that we've done, but we have not ever altered, never ever altered, even from the open source. I mean, the open source one probably had some more weird like surf ramp bug fixes, but we never ever like got it to a point where it was like, this is completely different. Like this is a Unity engine's best interpretation of source movement or anything like that. It has always been pure source. It's just been improved over time through the fixes that we've done to ramp bugs, to the inconsistencies in movements. And maybe there is some slight knock-on effect there where that consistency, where that frame delay, right, the zero frame delay, the zero ping, the just like the how the game feels could make it feel easier as well. Again, I can't comment too much on how servers run, or how server communities run their servers and things like that. I don't know if KSF is doing anything different than what the game normally does. I know plugins are run server side, so bug fixes and stuff like that and any movement related things that it's doing have to be run on the server per person that connects. So if you're on a busier server, it could also feel harder because maybe the server is taking longer to process your movement. And then ping comes into play. How does that feel for you, right? Because now you have potentially 100 plus milliseconds of ping before you actually get that correction from the server, right? So all in all, we're not trying to be like, oh, like our platform's easier, you should come over and like, like we're not ever trying to do that. We're trying to be more in the eyes of we are CSS movement, but improved like in all of these inconsistent ways, they're gone, right? Like all of these inconsistencies are just completely fixed, right? We're making this platform something that you can reliably do throughout every map, right? That exists in the past and also maps made for Momentum or just maps made in the future. And it's just like, it's ideally just going to be this platform that people enjoy playing on. But at the end of the day, right, like I can't really guarantee that what is running on a multiplayer server that we don't really have any say over. We can't guarantee like it's one-to-one, and we're not trying to be as well. We're not actually trying to be one-to-one with multiplayer servers because that would just be, we would just have been making like KSF the game, right, or something like that, where it's like it's still multiplayer server based or something. So yeah, like there's definitely there are differences in the sense of like what you could feel, right? Because the game being smoother, like being more optimized, has a different feel than a game released in 2004 that has gotten like 2 updates and relies heavily on server plugins to do things.
It's 3, actually. It's 3. Look.
2000. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, it came out before. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, but anyway, I just want to say that like, again, it's not our mission to make it like deceptively easier. It's just we have found inconsistencies. We've optimized the engine. We've improved the game that way to where it could just feel better. And if people agree with that, that's great, right? That's awesome. That's what we set out to do. We set out to make a platform that feels great. I won't comment on whether or not it's better because that's or easier or like designed that way because that's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to make we're trying to make a more like I would say like than what you're used to. We're trying to make a platform that you can enjoy. That people, especially people that have never surfed on like something like KSF or something, could come in to learn and enjoy as well. Again, just reiterating every time kind of we get compared to multiplayer servers, our goal is not to kill multiplayer communities or anything like that. We will have dedicated lobbies as well and then things like that to cater to that experience that you're used to. We don't want to kill communities that way. We don't want to kill servers or anything like that. They will obviously still exist until the server owners decide it's not worthwhile. And we're not going to do anything directly that would change that. But it's really just up to players.
Yeah. They will cost $100.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Can I say one small thing? It's just in terms of when it comes to surf stuff and people saying that like Momentum Surf specifically is worse or better, which we, like Nick said, is kind of flip-flops. Like, please give us like an actual criticism for what is different, because that's something we can actually look at, as opposed to like we do just hear a lot of just random rumors, and that's something that like is, again, we're not trying to like destroy any surf community. That would suck, because we know how good like gaming communities are. I mean, a lot of them are terrible. Okay, but I mean, that ideally they can be really good. So like we're not. But we do want like actual criticism that we can work on from developers. So like, saying that like, it just feels sort of
players,
smoother or wetter or I don't know, whatever. Like,
Right. And we have, because that's the other thing too, like we have an active development team that know what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Rio is very well versed in movement,
Yeah.
right? So like, you know, a
Oh, we have
lot
a
of their
lot.
plugins are
Yeah.
being used on servers even. So if there's things that feel weird or inconsistent, I mean, some of it might be by design because it's just like, hey, it's just more consistent. Like you know, like ramp boost speed or something being less than how a server plugin did it. What like things like that, it would be like, okay, well, you know, that's just how we implemented it. But when it comes to yeah, when it comes to movement, like base movement, it is exactly the same. Like
People
we
bringing
took
up
CSS's code. It is exactly CSS's code, and it's just improved upon.
one of the fastest things
Yeah.
that gets comments on
Yeah.
in terms of dev stuff is when people bring up like movement inconsistencies. Like we get a lot of
Yes.
chatter in like Discord servers on that fast. And because again, we have people like Rio and Slidybat, people that play a lot of Surf and Bhop and are very good at it, but also have a very, very deep knowledge of source movement. And so,
Exactly.
like, it's something that
Yeah.
really, really does get picked up on. So, again, we're not trying to be mean when people say that, you know, say source is, or, you know, momentum is like slower than KSF or whatever. Like, it's. But we need like actual constructive criticism there, because that's something that our devs can take and work on very, very quickly and care about a lot.
Yes.
Easier than KSF.
So-
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, so in the sense of well, that could be in the sense of people practicing on momentum and then going to KSF and then not being able to do the same thing. That again, like it's just there are like improvements and things that we've done to the to the engine and just to movement in general, right? Around making things more consistent. So that might not exist on these platforms that you go and play on other than momentum. So it could be objectively backed. I mean, there are objective differences in the code. I mean, we are ideally better than just default CS movement, right? Like that's our goal, right? We were improving upon CSS movement, but it's not in the sense to be like, oh, strictly easier than this community or something. Like it's just a matter of making the movement way more tangible, way more enjoyable, and
it's certainly unambiguously the case that no one on this game is trying to change the base movement of the game modes that they like.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just no. I mean, we have people from practically
We're trying to improve
every game mode, but no one's doing that. I mean, okay, let's move on.
Okay.
SnazzyMakesMusic.
Thank you for that question, Murgle. Yeah.
Will TF2 trimp be added? I know it's unlikely, but so fun. We have done this before.
Yes.
Should we answer this?
Yes.
Or should we just...
No, I'll answer. Yes. We can add it. It's just a matter of getting enough content around it to actually officially platform it. There's not really a lot of trimping maps. We also have to understand kind of the mechanics around it, but it's doable. I believe Lumia had a branch for it. So it is very doable, but it's just a matter of implementing it kind of as a shadow mode that you can activate. And then shadow mode is just like not officially on the maps selector and stuff like that. And then being able to create maps and kind of tech the movement around it. But it is something that people have shown interest, and it is unique enough to be worthwhile. It kind of reminds me of like cod jumping in a way. You hit a slope, you go flying. Yeah, it's great. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to mount TF2 to get the demo man yell every time you activate. anyway, yeah, I assume that's what that means for trim there. But yeah.
Graro1. Will there be a way for communities to run/add permanent open lobbies, which add in some plugins/changes to the game, which still benefit from the zero ping delay?
So just talked about this earlier. Yes, we do have plans to add kind of this persistent, you throw it on a Linux box somewhere, you know, some VPS or something, dedicated lobbies, and that will have more control over kind of how multiplayer works with like passwords and things like that. You can add, you know, like different, like a server name and things like that. So that way there's way more kind of familiar thing that you're used to there. When it comes to plugins/changes to the game, I don't know. I mean, it depends how official it wants to be. We could probably do it. We could have like servers have their own leaderboards that you hook into, and that way it's like it's not using our site for this custom game mode. It's using just that server box, which you know has its own little SQLite like DB or some shit. So we'll figure it out, but we'll see like how much we allow in terms of like maybe scripting a scripting layer over top movement and stuff like that to be able to really like customize down 2.0 and onwards. But when it comes to the multiplayer aspect, getting kind of that community permanent open lobbies or kind of password protected lobbies or whatever, yes, we do want to have those supported as well. And yes, it would absolutely benefit from the zero ping delay. There'd be no synchronization still. It's still our networking logic, so you won't be able to do tricks entirely because, again, that's just how we're doing our multiplayer. It's not just a matter of like adding it back. It's like it's inherent in the way that our multiplayer is set up. So yeah, you would still have zero ping delay, but not be able to do the multiplayer modes. But yeah, so hopefully that answers that. Yeah, we have answered this before too, but it's good to just reiterate. Community is very important. You can play this game entirely by yourself or with a full 64. Or I don't actually know what limit we'll set. I think 64 might be too small. We'll see. We might do the full 250 for like dedicated lobbies, and then like peer-to-peer lobbies maybe cap it at like 32 or something, just to be realistic. We got to do some stress testing, so we'll have fun with that. But yeah, so we'll see where that goes. Yeah.
The next question,
So.
I think, is a repeat of me and XB both trying to do slides at the same time. I think this is NotEagle's question from before.
Oh, that's it.
So this
No,
is...
I think NotEagle had 4 questions in total, so the last one, the third one, is the one that we didn't get to.
the third one. Blacklist
Oh,
some console
gotcha,
commands if it
blacklist.
mess with custom features like mechanic. Don't like the sound of that.
Probably not. I don't think mappers would be able to control local games, and then people would just hack the game anyway to allow it. So yeah, there's not really going to be any controls there. I mean, if there's like official triggers and stuff, yeah, we could do things like that where it's like, oh yeah, we prevent you from, I guess, I don't know. I guess that could extend to like restarting, but I don't know why you would do that. It just sounds like a setup for like a jump scare map or some shit.
No.
Yeah, so I don't know. We would have to know what commands should be blacklisted before we can really determine. But like realistically, right? Like I don't know. Like I don't think you'll be able to really block players from doing specific things unless it's part of the gameplay itself already, if that makes sense. Like a convar command can be blocked. Like we have plenty of that, right? Like we block stuff during runs, right? You can't change fire angle, for example. Things like that, like we do block. And obviously if you have the game to change it, then run validation is going to catch you. So, but when it comes to like a mapper being like, hey, you have to use, center fire here or something, and you can't change it. It's like, yeah, we're not going to do that. Like we're going to allow people to have like their preferences and then mappers to be able to kind of control what's allowed. But when it comes to like changing someone's convars or like anything like that, we're not going to do. Server point command and things like that are probably either going to be heavily limited and or removed entirely from momentum, just because of like, yeah, mappers should not be controlling how your game plays. Like I think that's in the sense of like, oh yeah, like let's turn down the FOV or something. Like it's just kind of like what. Yeah, it's more of just like, what do you want to try to blacklist that we would really need to see, and could that be a trigger or other logic entity that we could add instead?
Yeah, like point client command, a lot of the stuff that gets used there is like stuff that should probably be its own like entity. Like people use it to place.
I'm gonna let the cat out
use it to
because
place.
he's meowing a lot, and then I'm gonna.
Okay.
Okay.
So
You can go to the next question.
I already have.
Okay, cool. Sorry. What were you saying next?
Yeah. No, people use like the client command to like play sounds or like change like HDR like settings for the map, and it's like
Right.
it's stuff that probably could be ripped out into like proper entities specifically for those things.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's things that map review will also catch. Like we will be going through, obviously, if we're removing those entities, even from older maps, right? Like seeing what was being changed, and then seeing if we can inject maybe the entities that we add, or whatever is needed in order to get that same effect. So cool. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, NotEagle, for that. Sorry we missed it in the the slides here. Again, jankiest Q&A stream. Just chalking it up to that. But yeah, okay, so going back to TehBoss here. So would it violate our agreement with Valve if we were to create our own textures that replaced CSS's textures? So VPK with all of the same name textures, but either generated, created by an artist, or whatever. No. So specifically with CSS's textures, if you create similar enough textures that are obviously the same name, and ship that with your game, you created them, right? We would have created them. There's nothing that Valve could really do about that. I mean, obviously, right? Otherwise, they'd be locking down our game already, because we already have some stuff like that. So for the most part, right, like with CSS in particular, it's a very hot topic because it's the only game that we mount that, except for Portal 2, I guess, that isn't free. Right, and it's heavily played. Though I want to kind of further emphasize here that it is recommended to pick it up on maybe a Steam sale when it's $1 or less, so that way you can at least get it. And then we also recommend newer Steam accounts, especially if you don't have any games. We recommend buying it because it will be required that you have spent $5 on your Steam account somewhere on Steam in order to submit runs to the leaderboard. So we do have that requirement. For the vast majority of your guys' Steam accounts, that's okay, right? Like you'll be fine. You're already, you're good. Buying CSS would get you past that, right? If it, it's like $10, I think now. Used to be 15. So definitely we'd recommend just getting CSS. Because the other avenue that we want to take is we will have a tool in the game that will take your mounted textures and repack it. That will take all of those kind of like mounted VPKs and stuff and recompress all of the textures down to like smaller sizes, and just kind of put it in maybe a custom folder that you'd like to have them in. That way, you don't technically need the game installed at the time of booting, but you would at least need to get the game's assets to be able to use this tool. That's kind of our compromise there, where we take those textures and we just kind of compress them down and remove the ones we don't need, right? There's a ton of stuff from TF2 that we do not need. So we can absolutely do things like that. And that's also okay. At least we're thinking it should be. I mean, I don't really see why it wouldn't. Like, what's stopping you from just doing that normally? It would be amazing to have a public domain CSS texture pack. I would absolutely love to have a public domain CSS texture pack. Right now, even Gmod, right, and stuff like that, people just link to the like textures that you can get from the dedicated server depot and stuff like that. It's you can get CSS textures for free, right? Like there's avenues like that. I won't like list all of them out or whatever, but there are obviously avenues like that. But the main thing that we would want out of kind of this like Libra CSS or whatever texture pack would just be, 1-to-1, maybe even PBR, maybe even BC7, compressed, where it's like they're even smaller than like the original CSS ones. They can be higher quality. So, but the main problem becomes, right, the maps that have used these textures before for light bounces and stuff with all the pre-computed like VRAD lighting. If you do change those textures significantly, it's going to look really bad. Like the lighting, if you make sand, for example, more emissive, then that light isn't really going to be reflected, right? And so it'll just kind of look a little weird. But, I mean, it is definitely something that we would love to do because it would solve, it would probably be more of a general source community, like, I guess, like... what's the right word? It's more of just kind of a gift to the general source community because it would be like Gmod, right? Players could be able to use it, and then if there's any content that's imported to Sandbox that uses that, they could use that too. There's like the idea behind it being just kind of like it could be higher quality, it could be more compressed, And then that way you have them with the game, and it's just shipped with the game. Our goal is to include a lot of common texture packs with the game itself. So that way maps don't pack them and you don't download the same 4 megabytes Sky Dome texture every single time you download a map, right? Or something like that. Like we can have it shipped with the game and then it just uses that. We are planning on doing that. But when it comes to CSS in particular, it's a gargantuan effort. It would be great if there's a lot of people in the community that would want to tackle that, because that is something that requires a bit of texture artistry, and maybe with our what is it? I forgot the name of it already. The texture group that we wanted to
Polyhaven.
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 Yes, Polyhaven. Even with our Polyhaven textures that we want to ship, maybe we can even use some of those to recreate some of the CSS textures.
No, I mean, in terms of getting CSS looking okay, it would be. I think you need to really start with CSS as a base, and I mean,
Yeah.
I have very little optimism towards doing a full, like if you're doing a substance design or whatever, like doing that fully manually and doing that well. AI maybe, mostly just because AI copyright law at the moment is very ambiguous, and I don't know, we could base stuff off of a bunch of games and then primarily CSS, and then probably some image AI is going to be doing decent textures for that. NVIDIA seems to be pretty confident in their own fucking legal stuff, where they can just be like, oh yeah, this is... Well, who knows? I mean, who knows what legal deals NVIDIA signed with with Valve to do Portal restuff and whatever. I don't know. The main thing for me is any way we do that is going to be very boring and very inhuman. So I mean, we can probably do it and get something decent, but it's going to be a pretty bleak project unless people are really keen and actually want to genuinely do good replications of CSS textures, which would be great. At the same time, with Momentum, we've now got CSS, TF2, and CSGO, and then now stuff from Defrag, and it's...
Yep. So, and shipping this with the game is absolutely something that we would love to do. Because it's just a large majority of maps that use them. But at the same time, there's even a further step we can do, which is the asset atlas, which is starting to remove maybe the need to ship a lot of stuff with the game. Yeah. But again, the main thing around that is having Steam distribute for us rather than our website, because that gets pricey with bandwidth and stuff. So so anyway, there's a lot of fun involved with that. But when it comes to shipping textures with the game, we do want to, if there's enough effort done behind the CSS texture pack replacement, we would absolutely be on board with shipping that with the game, and we wouldn't be in any trouble, because again, the textures, as long as they aren't literally the CSS ones, would be texture recreations that would, if verified in game, I think a great start, if anyone wanted to pick this up, would be to create a map that uses every single texture from CSS in the map, and then just go through and a little texture library, or kind of museum map, and then just start recreating them, and then just compare side by side with a CSS loading that map and then Momentum loading the ones with the new textures, and just, it's a lot of work. There's hundreds of textures and normal maps that you have to, there's so much more on top of that. We are able to ship Half-Life 2 assets with it, because that's part of the SDK and part of the license that I think we have with Valve. So the Half-Life 2 assets we're actually also going to optimize if we can. So there's some more space savings to be done there.
When we eventually learn how BT5, BT7 work.
Yeah.
BT7 is it's too complicated.
But yeah, so it's definitely desired. And yeah, it would be cool to have this be community led, because taking that away from our artists would be our weapons and stuff wouldn't be worked on for a while.
None of our artists are going to work on this. None of them. I don't think anyone.
It's a lot of work. So, but yeah, thank you for this question, boss. We'll move on to our last one.
Oh, last one. Okay, I'm answering this. This is my domain.
Yeah.
EY asks, how will custom HUD/UI work? Okay, So we have several aspects of. First thing is, I'll have a big thing on the Momentum YouTube channel soon about Panorama UI, which is a UI framework we now use. If you're used to TF2 UI or Counter-Strike Source or whatever, VGUI, we don't use that anymore. It's horrible. Forget about it. It's really completely irrelevant now. Okay, so my goal for Momentum 1.0 in terms of UI is to have draggable HUD customization with resizing of UI components and probably font configuration and some color configuration and other stuff. It's complex because I don't want to go into technical stuff, but basically when it comes to how everything is laid out on your HUD, and this is how I'm thinking about UI for now when it comes to HUDs, UI, game, like menu UI I'll get to. Okay, HUDs I think should be very, very customizable. I was really keen when I saw the Diabolical beta launch, seeing like how much people were playing around with those immediately. That was great. So, yeah, I don't know. I want to work off of some of that. I've stolen some of their UI customizer stuff there. I have a thing in the works that will probably won't be done for a while. It won't be done until after 010. But it will be done.
Not stolen. You were inspired by. I should clarify that. You didn't actually hack into their code base and steal their shit.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, it's just good UI design. That Sorry.
Yes. Inspired by it. Yeah.
And so the basic idea is I want everything to be draggable in the HUD. Doing that for all the different game modes is tricky, but that what is that emote? Anyway.
It's a Fall Guy. Anyway, okay. There's definitely good UI design from Diabolical, and like really custom HUDs are just a matter of like we got to implement it so that you can create your own first, and then we'll see kind of how to distribute them and make them reliably updatable and things like that if we want to do that.
Sorry, Nick is taking over for me because I'm half asleep. My goal is to make it so it's very, very easy for any user to do custom UI stuff and then make that shareable. The way that will be shareable will be through game files, probably in like the resources folder, but in a .kv3 file. It'll work well. It'll be nice. When it comes to like the really intense HUD customization, such as like changing every color and all that complex stuff, that's something that is doable, where all of our panorama stuff is open source and can be overwritten in your custom folder, so pretty much everything can be customized. The main thing that's ambiguous at the moment is how much of it ends up being customizable from like draggable in the literal game UI that like any user can do, and how much of it requires like messing with the game files, doing custom stuff there, then how much of it requires like learning a bunch of like panorama CSS, this like weird version of Valve's version of CSS and stuff, and customization there. So in those three different levels there's going to be a ton you can do. The main thing I'm really thinking about at the moment is how much we can put into the thing that is accessible to like every user. So that's my sleepy rant. I'm no longer thinking about Momentum. I'm dead. Okay? Bye.
We do have one more question if you want to answer it. It came in at like 3. It's very easy. I can take it too.
Yeah.
Yes. You just have to refresh it to show it. Comes from Gurnski. What are the requirements for contributing to the project code and feature-wise? How proficient does one have to be in C++ to do so? Are other similar languages involved? So, great question. The open source repositories that we have, sans the game one, the game repository was our old C++ repository we had before we were licensed. So specifically with C++, it's actually pretty hard to get in. We're technically we have to vet everybody that would be kind of licensed, because you do have to be licensed in order to contribute to the C++ code base over in our private repository. However, we do have an open sourced we have open source and will have open source Discord bots. We have our internal one, which is written in C#, .NET, and that's our internal server, our Momentum server specifically for it, announces, live streams, helps us out with like text commands and stuff like that. Kind of basic. There's not too much that we need for that. We try to make issues for that, but it is open source. We will have a public Discord bot that anyone can invite to their server that interfaces with our API. Unfortunately, our API is being rewritten right now, so we don't have that up to speed yet, but that will likely be in either Discord.js or similar, very approachable language that would be very easy for people to contribute to and just be able to customize, like, embeds and stuff like that. When it comes to Twitch, we're going to have a Twitch bot as well in a similar vein, allowing you to do commands in people's Twitch chats to be able to see things like world records or like map PBs or things like that for different users and stuff like that. That will likely also be in like JavaScript or a similar language, maybe Python, if that's easier, just to make it very approachable, very customizable that people want to run and do. And then that leads us over to the website, which is currently in Angular, which is TypeScript, and HTML5, CSS3, with the backend being rewritten in, sorry, what? The front end, yes, with the front end being in Angular, the back end is actually being rewritten. It is currently in Express, the one that we've deployed right now, but we are rewriting it to be in Nest. JS, not Next, Nest. It's TypeScript. It's it's Angular-like, which keeps it very synchronized with the front end being in Angular.
Nest and yeah. I'm sorry, I was muted. So I'm now making loads of noise just to make people. Sorry, I'll shut up. It's but it's honestly the best effort to jump into. We then also have open source tooling. We have Lumper, which is kind of C#, and it's more of our map editing tool for all of the BSPs we're going to be importing into the game. It'll be basically our map review tool that will allow us to see every kind of lump of the game, see textures, see things like if there's bad words and things like that. Like we can kind of just scope out a map and make edits to it that can then fit our final deployed version before we actually do so. And then there's BSP Convert, which is actually converting Quake 3 BSPs to Chaos BSPs format directly. And that's headed by Panzer, and that's also C#, but very approachable, and just it's more of like this one-time conversion tool to import all of the Quake 3 defrag maps that exist. Eventually, the goal would be to support things like Gold Source, so that we can start to get some like 1.6 maps and stuff in, but that's way down the line and not Panzer's priority right now. It's Quake 3 support, and that's what they should focus on and stuff like that. So we have basically all of these are open source repos on our Momentum Mod Discord, GitHub. Feel free to join the Momentum Mod Discord and ask kind of directly. We do have the website effort would be the most direct one. I forgot to mention Panorama source code or like that's JavaScript. Panorama.
Yeah, XML, CSS, that's our UI, our user interface. So things that we are trying to report, we're going to be moving all of the issues over to the game repository. The game repository, which is the C++ client, that's heavily out of date. We use a private one. We still use the issues on that to kind of track game-related stuff. So we're going to be trying to go through and tag things that could be easily picked up, trivial, low-priority things that could be picked up by the community and implemented in their own time. If they want to help out and get involved. Keeping in mind here that any bit of work that you do towards the game grants you a key. So seriously, it's a really great way to not only help out the development of the game, but also get access to it if you haven't, if you're tired of waiting and want to help out. But realistically, right, you should be trying to help out because you believe in the project and you want to help in any way, shape, or form. Getting a key is great, but again, the game's not done. So if you're trying to just play right now, there's not much to really just play. It's a very limited map. Everything's going to be wiped. Like it's a play test. So it's good to get in, and like and then also if you do need keys for like if you're a mapper or a map tester or anything like that, definitely reach out to the team or me on Discord. You know, I'll hook you up with a key. We do want mappers to be fully supported by the platform. So yeah. So hopefully that answers that. Probably skipped over some other smaller repositories. Sorry about that if I did, but realistically, yeah, the website would be a great for start.
Yeah.
That's TypeScript, you know, TypeScript and CSS and yeah, HTML. But you don't have to do front end. You can do back end. The back end is really what needs the effort right now. So
honestly, we're approaching the point
start.
where we need as many front end people as back end. But yeah.
Yes, yeah, we do.
I'd love to get some really experienced Angular people, because I don't want to spend ages learning new stuff in Angular, because I know a decent amount of it, but yeah.
But we have to update it. We're actually like I think 3 major versions of it.
Yeah, no, it's old.
It's like Angular 15 now, and we're on like 11.
No, there's a ton of stuff we can do to the front end that
So we rewrite it in Rust. Yeah.
The front end. Yeah. I'm gonna hit
right.
you. Okay.
All right. So
is that the last question?
Hopefully that answers that. Yeah.
Oh, do we have one more? No.
We do not in Q&A live.
Cool.
Was there any in chat that we may have missed? I don't see any in.
I think Tom wants to go to sleep.
I'd like to.
There's just Jim's question. Ban me if this triggers you or something. It doesn't trigger us. Like we have a roadmap. The answer to the release date, we cannot promise any dates. We can only promise progress. Or we can only show progress. So we actually have a roadmap. It's a very lovely picture. I don't know if you want to try to find that and pull it up. That Traz made, and we want to create it on our main website as well. But the idea is that once we get everything for 1.0 ready, that's when we'll know the release date for it. Until then, it's as good as a guess as like any of when it would be. All I can say is that after this move is done, sorry again about the lack of releases for the past couple of weeks. I've just or past couple of month basically. We do plan on having kind of a regular release cycle and having the I don't know what the game loud. Okay, the roadmap's up. Yeah, nice. So you can see here. Wait, actually, I don't have the stream on.
Where is it? Is it on the slides?
Oh no, I didn't add it to the slides.
Okay.
Sorry,
Cool.
I was just kind of talking.
That's so good.
I got distracted. But anyway, the main answer to that question there is just a matter of when we get to that point. So I really just want to emphasize that the entire team is working in their free time. This is just a passion project. It would be completely different if we were doing this for money or doing this as an actual studio. But this is just a collective of international volunteers working in their free time to make something like this. It is very variable right now because of just different availability. Even me, right? Like I'm physically moving to a different state across the country. So yeah, like even it is. Real life is more important for a lot of people, and that's okay. The game gets worked on when it can, and honestly, it just makes a better product that way because it when it comes out, and it will come out. I'm in it to release it. I'm in it to play it, right? The game will be awesome. There's no doubt about it. And we really appreciate all of your patience. And yeah, if you have signed up to the playtest, again, thanking you so much for the patience around the drops there. We're slowly dripping people in, but as we approach 0.10 with the zone refactor and a lot of other map-related stuff, 0.11 with the replay refactor, 0.12 with cosmetic system / just kind of general stuff. As the roadmap shows, I don't have it up still, but I think it's in our fact. Let me pull it up actually super quick. Yeah, there it is. Cool. So yeah, so with 0.12, right, the rank points in XP system, being basically implemented fully, like bonus leaderboards, stuff like that. the learn mode being finalized and tested heavily by people that have never touched any of the modes that we have learned sections for. And then O13 more towards the public roaming lobby. That might actually be done sooner than that. And then anti-cheat and other polish that we need to do before 1.0. But honestly, once it's in place, right? Once all of this is like in place and tested, we will pick a date. And it will be very clear when the game is dropping. And the game will drop. It will drop for everybody. It'll be entirely free. We'll try to figure out if we want to have some sort of like little badge or whatever on your momentum profile if you've played the game before it dropped. So the OGs, have that. But we'll see. We'll see how that's going to work. But by 1.0, a lot of people that have been waiting should have access to the game if they're still around in the community. It won't be a full release. Like, we won't just open the playtest because that's a soft release of 1.0. But yeah, we will absolutely be doing, like, for 0.10.0, right now we're doing 50 a day, so 350 a week. We're going to be doubling it to 100 a day at 0.10.0, and then 200 a day at 0.11.0. So yeah, it'll start to clear out the queue pretty quickly after 0.11.0. And then, yeah, it's just a matter of getting to 1.0. So, yeah. Oh, I'm quiet. Okay. Anyway, hopefully you're able to hear that.
Have you been reading chat at all? Watch the Twitch.
A little bit. But, okay. Anyway, I guess we can call it there. We can go ahead and raid people. I guess this is... Oh, I'm fine now? Okay. Cool. Sorry about the jankiness. Again, the next Q&A stream, I'll be fully set up in my actual apartment. This is just temporary. And I will, I will have full creative control over this stream again. No, I'm just kidding. You did a good job, Tom. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thanks. No, this was great fun.
Yeah. And it's always a good time.
I'm going to probably stream for the next about sort of 4 hours just playing this map, I think.
I still need to pull up the stream. Hold on. I don't have the stream up.
Watch it. I'm doing so badly.
Have you ever played Flappy Bird before?
No. It's really hard. Why did he make this then?
What the hell? Wait, what the fuck?
Oh my god, I'm actually getting
okay.
it. It's only since Nick... Fuck, never mind.
Okay. Well, anyway, we do have a lovely roadmap. I can link it in this chat. Gotta get the URL here. So here, okay, let's resize there. So that is our roadmap. It's inside of our Discord FAQ. And yeah, some of this stuff is open source, so like getting these kind of things rolling or just contributing to these things can get you access as well. But yeah, we do appreciate your patience. And again, 1.0 is going to be awesome. When it comes out, it's going to be awesome. And yeah, I cannot wait to play it, right? Like I really want to play 1.0. Again, like we're not doing this for money or for fame or anything like that. We're really just excited to play this game.
For me, I'm doing it mostly to make just like random people on the internet watch me play Flappy Bird.
Yes.
It's been a long running thing, so I'm really glad that like we finally... God damn, that's hard.
But that basically concludes the stream. We got a little bit of gameplay, I guess. So I guess we'll call it there. There are people streaming Momentum. That's a first.
Yeah, but I'm not stopping the stream.
Oh, okay. All right. If you're going to keep going until you actually pass out.
This is genuinely like in Momentum, by the way. This is like normally Nick would show like the whole. This is Momentum. We got all this stuff. This is like the beginnings of the learn section. This is like the lobbies. Anyone else? This won't work in multiplayer, will it? This won't work in lobbies. But,
I don't know how it would work in multiplayer.
I have no idea how Ninja made this. This is genuinely in Momentum, by the way. This is, like... You will see people. Can someone join my lobby, please? In Flapper, whatever it was called. How the fuck did you make this? Can we zone this?
Isn't the entire point that it's endless?
How many other people have this map? Is this just like your secret concoction? It's really hard. I can't... I'm not good at, you know, platformers.
It could also be just that it's not one-to-one with the actual game.
Maybe not. I really like the faceplant. How the fuck did you make this?
Ninja is a wizard.
Old map 10 minutes ago. I'm genuinely.
We're playing some defrag for crazy. It's a little different. It's a little too.
I would genuinely love to upload this as like defrag, fucking Flappy Bird or whatever. I've been wanting to go to bed badly for the last, like, hour. You can call me Al?
Oh, sorry about that, Al. Sorry.
What did you call him?
I just called him crazy.
Crazy?
Oh my god. I apologize about that.
It's over 100.
The stream has made me delirious.
Ninja, you're better at movement games than I am.
Over 100. Oh my god.
I can't do this.
Momentum Man!
Momentum Man. Thanks for the sub. Good to get the Flappy Bird sub. Sorry, I'm just really enjoying the fact that, like, the one time that it's me streaming the Q&A, rather than showing off the game, it's just Flappy Bird.
Show off in Momentum Flappy Bird.
I have absolutely no idea how Scarlett did this, but okay. Just...
All right.
Yeah.
When you're ready to end it, let me know.
I apologize. Yes. Apologies for the weird Q&A this week. I've been up for a really long time and not slept at all, so my brain is turned to like some kind of like weird gelatin mixture. So yeah.
Mature.
Okay, you need some sleep, so you should go get some sleep. But thank you again for running it. What? Follower only? Okay, well, whatever. But this is the person we're gonna raid. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing. Jeez, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, the raid message is just gonna be play your favorite game mode.
Play Flappy Bird.
Or sorry, please play, and then your favorite
Flappy
game
Bird.
mode, and then a smile. So for me, it's going to be this. But you could do whatever game mode you want. It could be defrag, it could be anything. And yeah, or Flappy Bird, and the new hidden 11th mode. But definitely enjoy it. Wait, is it still... Oh my god, is the hype train blocking our raid? I can't even see the raid message anymore. What the fuck? Okay, there it is. I can't click raid now. I think, Tom, you're going to have to click it. Why can't I? Oh,